And I'm Jonathan Byer, coming to you live from Anaheim in my hotel room.
Live and in color. Isn't that?
That's right.
Live
That's right.
and in living color on NBC. For those of you who are new here, this is the skating lesson. We're about to break down the 2019 Four Continents Championships. If you are new, please consider subscribing below and smash that like button. I forgot to say it, Jonathan, but we need to bring it back. Tell them to do it, Jonathan.
Just smash the button?
Smash that like button. Come on.
I feel so aggressive. I just say you lightly and elegantly just subscribe.
Lightly and elegantly subscribe and hit that. Listen, there were some people that needed to smash that like button today. They were just...
I agree.
But let's start.
And some judges that smashed the dislike button today in ice dance. Yeah, see what we did there? Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it, because everyone else is. You
Correct.
were there for the Hubbell and Zach performance. By the way, they're Hubbell and Donohue. There's another skater that always calls them Hubbell and Zach, so it's like stuck in my brain now. So it's...
Well, I always switch it and say Zaddy and Mac. So
Zaddy
I don't
and Mac.
know. Yeah, I just, it's confusing, I guess.
I once heard Deanna say Tim DeLuke, and I said, it's Tim LeDuc. You may need those special glasses. But anyway, let's start with the Hubbell and Donohue free dance. So you were there, and this is one of those things where you have to watch this program back to really watch where they missed levels. And they seemed like they were decently satisfied with their performance when they got off the ice, and probably won't be when they go back and re-watch it. But the skate to the naked eye looked decent. What was your impression of it?
Oh, it was very exciting in person. And I was in a particular angle, which was really interesting, especially for the dance.
Yeah, where were you sitting? I couldn't find you on TV, and I was looking.
We were right across from where the Kiss and Cry was,
okay,
and just a little to the right by where the freestanding photographers were. Okay. And so we would get a completely different angle than every single camera angle. So even to my naked eye, by the time it showed up in the reverse view on the Jumbotron, it was a totally different experience. For instance, and we'll get to it, the Kirsten Moortowers lift happened directly in front of us, but we saw it from the back, where it kind of was a little more scary than when they actually replayed the television angle.
That was the same lift that Deanna and Nate messed up at Nationals, by the way.
I'm correct.
But Kirsten didn't let us know if it was her favorite part. She was not clear on that.
That's right. But she also, like Deanna, was working every maneuver to get that level regardless.
Oh, I like Kirsten. I have long said that she is an Allie Raisman type. I feel like she would stick her beam. She's very sturdy in competition. Like,
yes,
her throws,
I will give her all the love.
Like,
yeah.
Let me tell you, if Kirsten Moortowers does it, usually it's either a fall or a rock solid landing. It is one way or another. She used to have this rock solid, like, she and Dylan were like not elegant flowers, they were bold when we saw them.
That's right.
In Rhapsody. So
that's right.
I like her.
But we'll get to it.
Scary.
Well, I'll do a whole gush. Okay.
Okay.
But now the issues that then we did slow down and see after the fact were certainly not evident, I think, to probably most of us in the arena, and including those actually in the judging and technical panels, as it took forever to get those scores. It felt like it started to get very unnerving in the arena because you knew something really weird and unexpected was about to happen.
Patch could sense it, but they were still shocked when it came up. I think they, know, as the longer it goes, I think you're like, well, that's the silver. Or that maybe the bronze. Oh. And remember, we had kind of discussed this, I think on camera, certainly off camera, but that they were in second, but kind of vulnerable for the silver medal at Worlds because it was quite tight at the top, and what would happen, the potential implications if they lost here, and how there were people who were not American friendly callers. There were European callers here. But they made errors here where the panel was actually not left much of a choice. The first thing that happens is their stationary lift. And if you go back and watch, they start the stationary lift in center ice by where it says Four Continents on the ice. And they start it by between the F and the O. And they move like 2 letters to where they're by like the edge of the U and the R. When they finish it, and because they move the stationary lift, they only get base value, and it costs them about 5 points on that element alone. So they were in the hole after like the first or second element, just as they were at the Olympics, where they were in the hole as well. So
But this was one of those things, again, like other errors that they have made in the past where you really feel like they lost an opportunity with like a big snafu or something like that. Those moments took away from the program.
This was fluky little stuff.
It was just really unfortunate. So part of me still feels very hopeful because, again, in the arena, it did not detract from the performance. It was not a noticeable guffaw kind of thing. So it just seems a little fussy, I guess.
They give off a certain vibe when they skate. Now, I know that you've used words like expansive, and Jonathan likes to talk about, their wingspan on the ice, Sandra, and their important skating. And I think that we have a certain reference now, I've thought about it, for what kind of skating that is. I want to bring you back to like the 97-98 season, because they give off a certain vibe. Okay.
Yeah.
They remind me of Katarina Witt skating in that velvet one piece to Man of La Mancha. They are just statuesque, full-figured Germans, just like giving us the glorious, like beautiful bodies, like just owning it.
It's so true. It's so true. Now, when I was at Nationals and we were talking about how big they skated, right? That was just against those teams. Now, I was intrigued to see them against the Canadians, especially. And still, in just one pump, they're across the rink. It's really something amazing. And actually, the unfortunate bit is the stationary lift at the beginning is such a cool part, and it shows the strength of Zach to be able to do all of this flipping around just with such ease, seemingly. And actually, the goofiest part is I thought it was a highlight of the program today from where I was sitting. And then for that to have been like a major deterrent is craziness.
It is. It's a beautiful part, right? And that was the biggest error in their program. There were other small errors. You could see to the naked eye, she had a bobble and a back outside twizzle during
like a little skid.
Just during the fourth element, which was the OFSTL3. Okay, so
that old code.
Code. But you could always see during their twizzles, just like at the Olympics, she had a issue on the second set again, and that was costly as well. That lost them another level, probably another point and change. And then they had a level 2 spin at the end. So when you look back at all of the things, there are about 4 elements where they could have scored better. Components wise, most of the judges still liked them. Judge number 1, though,
was not a fan.
How is the British judge always judge number 1? In Lillehammer, I always remember the British judge being judge number 1. That is where you want Vanessa Riley to sit, I think.
It's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, the Great British Judge had Madison and Zach in 6th place in the free dance today.
Yeah, we'll talk about the order that the British judge...
Yeah, they had Piper and Paul first.
And
we'll get to that. Because I think Piper and Paul, it was the most... moving and effective free dance in person today from a choreographic standpoint. Then she had Madison and Evan in 2nd place, had Fournier, Baudry, and Sorensen in 3rd place.
Say that name again, Jonathan. You just gave it so much GOE.
Fournier, Baudry, and Sorensen. And then Hawaii and Baker were 4th.
Would you like to say the name of our Quebecois friend that skates with my husband, Drew Wolf? What is her name? How do you say that?
Camille.
Yes. The last name?
I have to look at it to see it.
It's like Rue. I worked with her in person on it, and I still was like, I don't know.
Well, in opera, all the time you take these French diction coachings, and I can't tell you how many times they've been like, Jonathan, you're saying an and I need to hear more And I was like, I'm sorry, that sounds like the same thing to me.
Interesting.
But it had Hawaii and Baker and...
Oh, yeah, continue.
Who was what?
No, I was just going to say that Weaver and Poje, I'm looking at the protocol and I had comments, but continue. So they had Piper and Paul
Weaver
first.
It was Piper and Paul, Madison and Evan, Fournier, Baudry, and Sorensen. Hawaii and Baker were 4th. Weaver and Poje were 5th, and he had Hubbell and Donohue in 6th place. They weren't having any of it. With a 103, that's rough.
I would almost say they had a point of view, except for the fact that Fournier and Baudry, them being 3rd is a little strange. They're a lovely team. They are many things, but third...
Dave, I don't know. I'll tell you what. They were not third, but I had no idea I was going to be so enamored with them.
Great. The top 6 here are really fantastic.
It was an incredible flight, but truly, I thought they were quite excellent and actually would have had them above Hawaii and Baker from my personal enjoyment and just the strength and overall speed and, the coverage that they had. Yeah.
But Hawaii and Baker, as lovely as they are, were not in the top 4 teams here. There was a visible difference.
Yeah.
And there's an unevenness when they skate in ability and in many things. It's kind of
and coverage.
Yeah.
This is the biggest thing I'm noticing with them compared to the others is a lot of, stroking and a lot of just skating within kind of a small area.
And I think some of that too, the confidence and the maturity, now that they are expected and they're no longer the underdogs, they still seem to visibly be adjusting to being a top team, what that means. Right. Everyone is playing their role. I think for Hubbell and Donohue this season, first thing they did is they forgot who they were by the music choice, especially in the free dance. I think that they went to be with the Romeo and Juliet thinking of what a leading team would skate to. And they were always the edgy team. We talked about this at Nationals a little bit, how Mantra and Johnson really had that edgy, forward-thinking free dance that Hubbell and Donohue usually performed. And they muted their identity. It's not bad, this Romeo and Juliet, but it's not special like it could be. It's generic and gray for a team that is much more interesting than that, typically, for me.
And you know what? When I was watching June do his Romeo and Juliet cut, which is also, again, Romeo and Juliet, and he does use a bit of the Kissing You, but he does all of that like modern dance music included in it. If they had even used a cut more similar to that, I think we could have had a much more kind of effective thing. But as you see from the PCS, in this instance, for sure, it's not really the program that held them back placement-wise, but I agree with you just as a fan of theirs that I want different material for next season.
It did and it didn't. So if you look at the protocol, the first judge obviously didn't like it. The second one, it's like 9.5, 9.25. They felt that Weaver and Poje, they gave them more 9.5s. It's not as good as they could be doing. Mixed marks as well for Gilles and Poirier. And then they didn't like Chock and Bates as much. But the third judge, again, did like the dance. The fourth judge put them behind Weaver and Poje. There are certain judges. Right. When we go into the World Championships, they are now, this is two things. Had they won the 4 continents, they would be a solid second. It would seem very establishment. They have the momentum. But I think that they are in a little bit of trouble. Judge 6 was also not a fan of this program. So they've already been beaten now. And now that they have been beaten on this stage, the judges are going to feel freer to pile on at the World Championships. That's just how this goes. Now that they have done this, they could put another North American team. They could try to put 2 Russians. The politics can split. And there's another reason for this. And you talked about how big their pattern is. And while that's good, the Tango Romantica is very dependent upon the placement of certain elements. And if one element is taken too wide, the next one can come in a little bit flat. And Hubbell and Donohue have consistently gotten in level 2s and level 3s in the Tango Romantica throughout the season because they're just not hitting their levels. And they both make mistakes. It's not like you can just point to one or the other. They'll go a little flat in a rocker, or they'll go flat in a 3-turn, and they're missing little elements again and again. Overall, big picture skating, they're doing a very good job, but the little details are hurting them. And it actually seems like on the Tango Romantica, their big skating is a little bit of a detriment because they're going so big and so wide and then a little shallow. And whereas someone like Chock and Bates, they're not as big of skaters, but they keep it and they're able to kind of navigate it.
Be a little sharper at points. Yeah.
And they're not getting the same GOE, And Hubbell and Donohue are still getting the Dewey, but they're losing the technical levels consistently throughout the season. And I thought it would improve from Skate America, Skate Canada, but it really hasn't. It's just been consistently uneven there. So,
and I think, though, looking towards Worlds also, I think the only team really that could take the silver away from them might be Madison and Evan. And I only say that because if they were going to push a Russian team to take this, which was very plausible, I think they kind of missed the mark because they couldn't decide which team to get behind. So there's been too much back and forth between those two for a clear leader to have emerged. So I still feel like, you know, they'll probably snag a medal, but if anyone's going to take it, I think it's going to be Evan and Madison, because it's clear also from the judges' protocols here, they are all over the map. Nobody knows what to do with Weaver and Poje.
But the Russians will know what to do with all of it, and their judges and I do think that Hubbell and Donohue certainly have a great shot at medaling, but it may be bronze. And maybe, you know, dance usually, you know, people have their rankings and they don't necessarily change that much. There would be flipping between the French and Tessa or Marilyn, Charlie, and Tessa and Scott. And sometimes that's political, and sometimes it's preference of material or preference of style from year to year in a pendulum. This seems like this dance is slightly flat, and they could be emphasizing other teams and push and make a political push. I don't think it's a dead end for their career by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a vulnerability, and how they respond to it. Will this rattle them? They are a team that, look, that I think that was their performance coach that was in the Kissing Cry with them.
The other woman, yeah.
She was in there last year. I have not seen her in a year. I have not checked which competition she was at with them, but I think that's who that was. It's not a surprise that they have struggled before, and they've had a different vibe this year. If you've noticed, last year they were more the outsiders. They were very approachable, maybe too approachable. This year they carry themselves like they. But
I kind of liked that. Like on the warm-ups and things, there was an air about them that said, "We are confident champions." And I I even jinxed it in my own head because, you know, I was thinking like, we no longer really quite see those snafus. Mm-hmm. And again, to me, these are so different than snafus of the past. These are weird fluke things that I don't think this is huge danger to what happens ahead technically. But like you say, if they get just a little bit rattled, does it take away the confidence that was actually preventing them from making these minor mistakes throughout the season? I hope not.
I wonder if it's been coached and put on. You could just hear it a little bit even in how they have. I mean, you want them to develop. You want them to have confidence. It's a different persona that they have out there in the Kiss and Cry.
Right.
Zach is always a little bit special. You can hear them. They were like, "Did you hear my quote in the Kiss and Cry yesterday, Patch? You had a nice hippo." And like, they're very aware of their success and where they are. It's funny to watch just the changes. But I have to say, a little bit concerning just in the fact of they are missing levels. There are vulnerabilities, but I think that their overall skating is still very strong. They're going to have to be sharper going forward. I don't think that the stationary lift problem will happen again, but the levels in the tango, the levels in some of these steps are things that are going to have to be revisited, I think, going forward. So, but overall, did you like the... I have to say, because of watching the final flight, I felt they had the music choice worked. It wasn't awful. It's like when you see it, it's not your most inspired.
Whose music choice?
Hubbell and Donohue. I felt like it was the least inspired of the final group.
Yeah, I agree.
It was fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually think that the intense beginning is effective.
Okay.
If it just moved into, like, I'm telling you,
if they laugh when she goes like that? I always kind of giggle when they do the very opening.
In person, everything is just so strong, so you kind of feel the strength to it. So nothing looks.
She's giving you those Katarina vibes, right?
Yeah, but in person, the energy makes it more valid than when I have seen it on screen.
Okay.
In a way. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah.
It's just those opening angular movements that look very unnatural and put on to me, where it seems like we're acting like a top team. We want to portray like we're Grecian goddesses, Tessa and Scott's, but it's not. Tessa and Scott, they just They were who they were. They pulled it off. They knew exactly who they were, you know? And I think that it seems like maybe, I think her name is Stephanie, she's perhaps coached them into being, you know, feeling the establishment champions rather than something they've grown
but
into.
It does give off an aura in the arena that does give you permission to know they should probably win.
And they probably should.
Yeah.
Today, no. But,
yeah.
Okay, so what did you think of Chock and Bates? Because I really have been impressed by one thing is this is perfect material choice for them, in my opinion.
Incredible.
Like, right, precisely, exactly what they should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're skating it really well. They are skating it better than before. And the choreography is genius because if you notice, her skating has improved.
It really has.
Semicolon, however, comma. Evan's choreography, he does switch a lot in their first step sequence in the short. He's going from behind to in front of her, back and forth, relaying, and the choreography has them weaving, so he is always dragging around the ice still.
Right.
But it's very effective, and I don't really mind it as much because overall her flow has improved.
Right. I think they took a position of let's improve her and kind of still artfully mask any limitations that we're still working on, and they did a great job. And again, so many times we're forced to fake noticing a difference in someone. Mm-hmm. Oh, they went to a new this. Oh, now they have this new jump and it's great, and this new spin and it's beautiful, and you're like, I don't know, it kind of looks the same. Let's be honest. But to have seen the vast improvement in all of it, they're highlighting her extension so much more. The speed was great. There's precision in their choreography, and they do such cool moves and moments. Unfortunately, the vibe in the arena, of course, they booed after the scores were given for Hubbell and Donohue and all these sorts of things. But so it really did take the wind or the joy out of their win, because they came out and they were kind of shell shocked. And in their interview, they felt like apologetic for having won, or I'm sure they were just trying to figure out how to artfully navigate those waters in the time. But I hope they can go home and actually enjoy the fact that they just won, because this is pretty epic, this kind of comeback out of nowhere being so improved for them. But unfortunately, it's not really the narrative of this win.
So you get about approximately $20,000 each for the win, and then the USOC matches it. So it's a really good day for them.
Okay, yeah. They could be happy when they deposit that. Okay.
Yeah, and then they'll probably get some Stars on Ice shows. I forget if they're on the list already, but that'll be coming, most likely. So, yeah, I think the other thing is, I want to ask you, the last minute, they do seem to lose out some steam, even though I really like the Burning Love part. It is where you notice a lack of power compared to Gilles and Poirier, who do gain speed and power throughout the program, and that's when their music picks up with that that tempo. And I wondered,
and it's interesting because Evan and Madison in the rhythm dance do an excellent job of climaxing right at the end with that amazing spin move, and it is such an epic moment, and it doesn't have that same momentum in the free dance. You're right, it became a little more effortful towards the end, so there wasn't an emotional journey. And I will tell you what, the Piper and Paul thing in person, that free dance was each time, some of the dances, if I'm being honest, I would kind of look up at the Jumbotron and be like, oh, it's the 2-minute mark. But this was one, each time the music turned again, I was like, yes, there's more. And each move was more interesting and building, and it was such a moment. So yes, the arc of the Piper and Paul program seemed far superior in person.
Well, this final group was it reminded me as much, I always say that the free dance, the final group at the World Championships, was my favorite event of the year. I just love the talent, the artistry. I think that the level of skill was always the best. Even going back between Marilyn, Charlie, Virtue and Moyer, Peshalat and Borza, Weaver and Poje, you were seeing fine wines. It was like a taste testing of fine wines, and it was so wonderful to see the differences and the variety and the nuance. I really thought that it was exquisite here. This group had that same vibe to it, which we've been missing so far this season. I didn't feel that at the Grand Prix final. But these 4 teams I thought were all exceptional. I just wanted to hit on one thing about Chock, is that in the past, I think we've known that she had a charisma to her and that there was just like a sexuality, and we would talk about her being sexy and then people would get mad. But the problem with especially once Marina and Igor split and they were just with Igor, is the music choices were always kind of tacky. And someone had kind of told me that... Misses. And someone said that Marina kind of classed up Igor a little bit. Like, he would be good at coming up with steps, but she would come up with the whole program idea. And she would kind of raise him in that way, and they worked well. And with Marina, she would miss maybe some of the technical details that Igor specialized in. So it's interesting because now we see Igor working with Nikolai, and that we can get to that, even though they're not really working together, but they're both working Weaver and Poje. But I did think that that she almost is giving off like an old movie star, very glamorous vibe. The dress is perfect. The music, the look.
They were exquisite, the dresses in person. I don't even know that on screen it does it justice. They were just... And it's old Hollywood.
It's old Hollywood. It's Sunset Boulevard. It's wonderful. Yeah. And Weaver has that look, too, to her dress. It's very sophisticated. So, But there's an earthy vibe to me to Gilles and Poirier's free dance.
You're experiencing something special.
Okay.
And it's so unique. In the sea of beautiful, amazing programs, everyone had great material. It was like an embarrassment of riches, but they stood out in a real, authentic, new kind of fresh way that doesn't happen for them in the rhythm dance, unfortunately. But really, this program, sometimes I wondered if I only liked them when they were a bit more innovative, because especially in person, they're taking twice as many steps almost. They're, and you do see
they've got those little legs.
Yeah, they're covering the ice in the rhythm dance, but not like a lot of the other people. But in the free dance, there was bigger speed. There were larger patterns, and just something so cool and innovative about it even though it was a more lyrical approach. I don't know. For me, it was the free dance of the event.
So their free dance is very airy and it's very relaxing, and I think it allows them to really get into their knees, whereas a tango can cause a lot of body tension, right? And that can cause stiffness in the body that can actually cause you to shorten your movements and not get the same knee bend flow into the ice, how all this is working together. It has an expansiveness to them and their overall flow on the ice. They still lack some of the refinement in certain areas. You could look at their shapes when they're on the twizzles and the extension, but the overall effect is quite strong to this
Absolutely.
dance.
Yeah.
And actually, to compare it, because I love the opening of Weaver and Poje's program, I think is so strong, and they look like these statuesque movie star glaciers. But as it goes along, there's something missing in the music. Around the 2 to 3 minute mark, the music doesn't progress and move forward. That's when Gilles and Poirier's music has that different beat
keeps
that comes
you going.
In. And I can't think, and I'm blanking on what kind of a rhythm that is that's coming in, but it almost sounds like it's a guitar or whatever comes in at that point.
Yeah, I can't even remember, but it moves you forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Weaver and Poje's, it's like da 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 da, and then you get to that point, and it just kind of trails. And then there's actually a little bit of a obvious music edit, and it goes back to the opening theme, and then it ends, and it's a little sloppy at that point, and it dies a little bit at that point.
It was very generically beautiful, and so it kind of lacked a bit a real perspective or point of view after you got used to. There were some beautiful choices, some beautiful entrances to lifts, and they skate really beautifully. He skates so big, especially when he's warming up and things like that. But yeah, I agree. It just kind of stagnates a bit towards the end, and kind of, I anticipated that they would not win the free dance over Piper and Paul, but I did think actually Piper and Paul could have won the free dance by a larger margin. But.
Yeah. So it's interesting. And a couple of the judges loved Weaver and Poje, and a couple of them really went for the kill here. But looking at their marks, again, it's that the first three elements in their program are so strong. The stationary lift, the OFSTL4, that's where they're doing the side-by-side edges at the beginning of the program, and they're doing all of the 1 foot clusters, and they go from the outside edge to the inside edge as they're turning in the corner in the pattern. And it is my favorite part of the program. I think it's so interesting, difficult, and sophisticated. And she especially skates it so well. Her edge is so clean. It is so impressive. And then they go into their signature straight line lift where she's doing the split. And that to me is such a gorgeous part of the program. If the free dance was 3 elements at the beginning of the program, I would give them all of the points. They look like next level superstar skaters. As the program goes along, especially the twizzles, they kind of look like senior citizens when they're doing it. Especially Andrew, he does not have the new bend.
That free leg, especially, that's what really got him in the rhythm dance, right? You just see it like just droop often when he switches directions, and it's just kind of a nail biter every time.
I wonder what the issue is. I don't know if they've had knee issues, but that's the one issue where you always see it from him, and historically it has not been a strong element for them, and that's one that really hurts them in this program, especially in the free dance. Everyone's getting 4s and 5s throughout it, and you could see a 0, 2, 3, 3, 3, 2. It's hurting them. It's hurting them. They did get 1-4 on it. I don't know who that judge was, but
I mean, they clearly sent the message again. Like, if someone's going to take a second or third spot, with the French and probably Maddie and Zach in some order. I don't think it's going to be Piper, or I don't think it's going to be Weaver and Poje, and they seem to really register that because this is their first international thing, and they let them know that they are safely behind Evan and Madison.
Now, if not for the twizzles in the rhythm dance, they also would have won. That one they judged it a little bit more accurately, and that one they were getting. Well, he got a level 3 on that. They did give him a 4 in the free dance, but that was questionable. That was a little generous. But in the rhythm dance, they got a 0, 4 1s, and they got 3 2s, and there was a 3 there as well. So they're missing a lot of points compared to the top teams, where Hubbell and Donohue may lose the levels, but then they get the GOE and they get the components. So you're seeing the differences. I do think that the rhythm dance is stronger for Weaver and Poje. The free dance is where they lose points just as the program goes along. But overall, it was classy skating. It was relevant. Yeah.
It was a great, and I gotta tell you, Fournier, Baudry, and Sorensen, again, like, I watch Canadian Nationals, but to see them in person here, I was so taken.
Did it spark you joy?
It sparked a whole bunch of joy. I'm not throwing them out of my dresser.
Yes.
It was just incredible. And the stylized flamenco was so tasteful and so energized and big, and I was just such a huge fan. So
and how about
I'm excited to see what happens with
her wardrobe and her charisma in person. I know that you've had a difficult relationship with her throughout the season, but overall, how are you doing with her now? I'm quite happy with her at this point.
Every like, all these things are coming to fruition. All these teams are like, blooming right now. I mean, obviously, again, with the minor mishaps, although they ended up not being minor in the end when you added them up for Madison and Zach. But in general, all these Montreal teams are really blooming at the right time. And I'm starting to see so much growth in the programs and so much growth and improvement in skaters, again, which I think is mind-blowing to actually be able to see the visible improvement in a lot of these teams so quickly.
Yeah. And what do you think her outfit retailed for in the Kiss and Cry and the free dance? Because it looked like $1 million.
Well, you know what? The rink was so frigid. I borrowed a Skating Mom's like Snoopy blanket for the entire event. But she had this nice like sweater poncho. So in addition to looking beautiful, I was like, she looks warm and I would like to be wearing the same poncho, actually.
So we need to talk about the skating fans here. And at Nationals, a lot of times there are empty seats in the front of the arena. Now, maybe I'm just a little bit from Jersey, but people, you are going to do skating a service if you move down and take those seats that can be seen on TV, because you don't want skating to look empty when it is shown to the general public. Move to the bottom row. And honestly, these arenas, they need to have some sort of a thing where just don't be checking. Let the people just move down and take their seats, because when skating is on TV, this is the moment we were in Anaheim. We could have just found and paid seat fillers off the street to make this look like
it's absolutely true. But now when I went to order these tickets, I mean, gosh, I decided back in like September or something that I was going to go. And I went on the website, and the website made it look like all of the seats had practically been sold out. Mm-hmm. And I was a bit surprised at the time, and I thought, well, maybe, there's large, contingencies coming from Japan or Korea or something like that, and they're just buying all these big blocks. And then I guess there was like a huge error for a very long time on the website that just said things were sold out, and they weren't. Oh. And so it was just a whole debacle, I think. It just seemed it was a strange...
Yeah,
organized competition that way.
I mean, we could have been like all the actor models in LA who are looking for work. We could have put them all in there, and they would have loved the ice dance. It could have looked like the Fire Festival. Okay, we could have had everyone. Right. I would have found the most good-looking people and just spread them around, all colors, all inclusion. Like, it could have been the United Colors of Benetton in that first. Right. Because the Nationals tickets looked very expensive, okay? The people who could afford them had lived a couple of decades when they were at Nationals. Like, it was not the most youthful
and crowd. The thing is, when you spend that much on the tickets, it's one thing, but you're also buying the flights. You're also spending a long period of time in hotels. You're not going for a night or two. You're often going for 4 nights or 5, so it can be an expensive thing all in. Overall, I don't know that these tickets were so outrageously priced, but they just made them seem like they were unavailable.
Because have you ever noticed, like, when you're on a talk show, and I don't mean this to be rude, but when you're on a talk show, if you go to Wendy Williams, or even when I went to the Anderson Cooper talk show, they scout the people out that they want to put in the front row, and they do it intentionally. They'll find the pretty blonde girl next to the gorgeous African-American girl, next to the gorgeous Asian man, and they put them in the front with bright colors. They look for looks, for diversity, for certain elements of the wardrobe so that it doesn't look muted and it looks engaging and energizing. We need to do that for the skating public. It needs to look like the coolest thing ever. When you watch an event in Japan, it looks like, oh, I want to go there. That looks fun.
And it was actually interesting because talking to a lot of the Japanese spectators, they were like, oh, well, we come here because we can't even get tickets. In Japan, it's easier to fly to LA and see an event than
my goodness, I heard you met 2 of my favorite Japanese fans.
Oh, yes, I did, actually.
I forget his name, but okay, so Kay is beautiful. She's an adult skater. She also has a sister. She looks like Shizuka Arakawa.
And she gave me those green tea Kit Kats, which were simply delicious.
She gave those to me once at Skate America.
I know. I bet she brought them for you, but I got them because you weren't here.
Wait, how did you know that I once had green tea Kit Kats? She told you? Or did
No, she bought them for me.
Oh, okay, yes.
Or she gave them to me because I wonder if she brought them for you thinking you might be there.
Oh, I don't know. And maybe. Okay.
But I ate them and they were delicious.
And then I always forget her friend, but he is a riot. I forget his name, but if you ever see him, he's at every skating event and he always wears these crazy hats. And then he tries to take the most outrageous selfies of himself with like all of the skaters and people in all of these crazy poses. And they always sit together, and they're like such disparate personalities. But there was a picture of me and Jenny in the Milwaukee local paper with Kay, her sister, whatever this man's name is, like all posing together, and it was quite.
That's really funny.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was big fans. We go way back.
Okay,
so. And I've watched videos of Kay adult skating. It's very wonderful.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So, yes, and they knew all about Shoma Uno, and yes. I heard that you were approached by many of people in Anaheim. I heard that
it was a really nice, well, I'm such a sucker, and all I do is fawn over, like, the Japanese team, so a lot of the Japanese spectators were like, we're the same. So, but you were missed, Dave. It would have been nice to have
you saw Triple Axel 1996, the legend from YouTube, he was the original uploader of competitions. So, namaste. That is...
And a lot of people, they're like, oh, no, which channel is that? I was like, literally, if you have watched anything from before 2002, I can guarantee you it's all his. Yeah.
Not just that. Do you know how many times, like back in the day, so the YouTube content rules have changed over time with revenue sharing. In the early days, if there was any music that was even picked up by an algorithm or matched, it would be taken off. This happened with some of our early YouTube videos. And you would be flagged and you would get strikes against your channel. This man has re-uploaded his YouTube content like 2 or 3 times that I can remember. 3-axle used to be spelled out triple axle. And I think like the 96 has changed in each iteration. He has re-uploaded those thousands of videos. And some of these are like Bruno Marcotte skating pairs with his original partner at the 99. So, I mean, like, these are some obscure things that we are watching.
Yeah.
Video.
It's an amazing resource. Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So, yes. Anyway, we were talking about ice dance, I think. So you really liked Piper and Paul. The short dance, you said the pattern was
and
small.
really like the third-ranked Canadian team. That was a big surprise. So I
He's
just
real
can't say
nice
enough.
to look at too.
Well, and it's not just that, because that is also that, but it truly was exciting stuff. So I am very enthused to see what they come up with next season, and I think they will place really well at Worlds, I would think.
So I once borrowed his jacket. He offered me to borrow his jacket in Gampoa when I was filming because it was real cold there. It was like, I'm never taking this thing off. I mean, he is handsome. Like,
yeah. And they have a very large presence on the ice. Like, they're both very tall, and they both have like nice, like, broad shoulders and things like that.
Qualities that you.
It's not. It fills it. It fills the space. Yeah.
Yeah. Bring on the man. You know, that's.
That's right.
You know, Weaver and Poje, what did you make of their performance? Because you seeing them in person?
Yeah, again, like the rhythm dance had some really nice qualities to it, of course, until it went wrong. But it's nice to see them. But I still do see the top 2 American teams placing safely ahead of them at Worlds.
They just don't get in their knees as the program progresses, especially when you get to the step sequences, and that's where the difference starts to be. The coverage of the ice, it becomes shallower, and the depth of the emotion in the performance has often been something that they've struggled with throughout. I think this free dance is one of their stronger vehicles, but their grand dame quality really works in the tango. So that's...
Yes, the tango is very effective. Yeah.
And look, they have 2 political masterminds working for him. I don't think they're out of it, but they cannot mess up the twizzles. I mean, think about this. Why do you think they have Igor and Nikolai together with them?
Right. So, I mean, it'll be... remembering that this is really their first international back, you know, I think that it'll be interesting to see where they end up at Worlds, but it's impressive what they've done.
What about Wang and Liu? I mean, they're quite a pleasant team. I've seen a lot of growth since they've been in Gabois. I think that they...
Now, but I have to tell you, there was a brand new Chinese team here, right? And I'm sorry, I don't have the thing in front of me. And I thought... they were a little more interesting to me in terms of long-term potential. I believe that this is their first competition, and they were well matched. You know, the already established team, he's quite tall, she's much shorter, and they're okay. They're doing well. Like, I get it, but the new team is the one that really piqued my interest, and I'm excited to see where that goes. And I think for the team event in Beijing, that'll probably be the go-to team for them. And
did you notice how much the Japanese are really getting behind Misato Komatsubara and Tim Coletto, because they really cheer for them? They have cult following fans. Japan is going for this team event medal, and it is endearing how much they are behind them. Yeah. And I loved when Hawaii, she went to say hi to everyone back home in Gabois, and Marie France said to her, everyone is here. No one is left.
Amazing. Yeah. That's what I...
Yes.
Unfortunately, you know, because I've long been a fan of theirs, but really with these kind of bit more grown-up feeling teams around them, they're definitely getting a bit more lost in the mix. I see them maybe not doing as well as they had anticipated at Worlds.
So they're no longer the up-and-comers with potential. They're now being judged against peers, and it's it's difficult, especially since other veterans haven't gone professional. It's kind of like when Michelle and Stasha stuck around after Salt Lake City.
Right.
People started to get, and Angela was still around, and you start to get squeezed into who can make it through, and their skating isn't necessarily pushing forward. And there could be a myriad of reasons for that. So, yeah, but let's move to the event, because the men's event was quite epic last night. It was quite late on the East Coast.
I know. Well, it felt quite late on the West Coast, too. But those final 8 skaters, I mean, it was just such, there was such momentum in the arena. And, like, even though there were performances of varying qualities and skating skills, or how they call it under rotations or things, the feeling in the arena and the seemingly overall quality of performance was pretty high. It made it for an exciting thing that's probably not that dissimilar from what we're going to see in all the top rankings at Worlds.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Shoma had ankle problems. The Japanese fans have been all over this. They have let us know that he had sprained ligaments in his ankle, and he hadn't practiced his quadruple flip in quite some time until he got to the U.S. To practice here before the event. But I have to say, I understand that Shoma has had ankle injuries throughout the season. I'm just becoming concerned that he's having an Ashley Wagner syndrome this season, where he botches the short program and then comes back in the long, and then botches the short program and then comes back in the long. I expected him to come back in the long here and win, and it was triumphant, and it was an amazing performance. A little bit of a hiccup on the Euler combination, but on the 3 jump, but it was overall wonderful. I'm just becoming concerned that the short program mistakes are becoming a pattern, because they happen in almost every single competition. Even though we know he was injured, I wonder, knowing that he fought back as he did in the free, if it helps him to skate when he has to fight. I think of him as a fighter, right?
And something that was magical about kind of the energy is you sensed, even though we knew, there was this injury thing going on, especially before the free, he really took his time, did very little in a way that, I imagine some skaters tend to overblow in the warm up and do too much and tire out and all these sorts of things. But you could tell his whole thing was about preservation and calm. And so the thing that kind of became exciting is because you knew it's very possible he might not be able to do it. And there was a scary edge to the short program, a nervy edge, because I was like, I feel nervous for you long before you're taking off. And I can't imagine it's that nervy normally, even when he's faltered. I don't know, it's been quite like the short program here, He's had some similar, the combination, he's just, some of the mistakes are a little bit repetitive
with him in the step outs, or the way that he has made errors that make me wonder. Obviously he did have an injury coming in here. It's just the fact that the short has consistently been the problem that makes me think that when he is in a position where he's like Ashley, when he has a little bit of something to fight for, is when he really focuses. And you see that a lot of the problems that he can typically have seem to go away when he really is dialed in and a little perhaps skating angry. It seems like he really shines.
And it's interesting. It's a thing. So, we can talk about this. Yes, there was Jason with transitions galore. We didn't have Hanyu here, who was probably really the only other top guy that's really doing a great deal of transitions and these sorts of things. Nathan has his version of them, but really, even though I was enjoying every minute of those final 8 men, there was a jump drill quality to most of the programs, which is, I can't play on the skaters. It's just kind of where we're at right now. And what I will say is Shoma's jump drill is beautiful. He's able, it does lack transitions, but so is everyone right now at this competition. But what he does in the way he fills that moment instead of a transition, it is done with such conviction, energy, projection, and posture that it kind of makes up for it and makes a very special moment.
He's a diminutive,
even though it's not so complicated.
He's a diminutive guy who skates enormous in person, and the speed and the flow and the edge quality is out of this world.
Absolutely.
And he is very exciting because he always is leaving you a little bit unsure. Is this going to be spectacular or a complete disaster? Like, he is on the edge, and you know he can be on the edge, and it's not.
You're in it for the ride. He's taking you on a ride with him. Yeah.
And it's interesting. The costumes, I think, are both muting. I would go with a more striking costume color for both programs, I think.
Well, I was thinking about this because, we were talking about, so many people love or hate those Vera Wang costumes that she's been making for Nathan. It's almost this, like, chic.
Or uniforms, as Evan Lysicher calls
old school uniforms, yeah. I don't know. It could behoove Shoma to be in that kind of ensemble, because he's the pictures he creates could be so pretty that way. I don't know that the pants, shirts, or all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think he would look really good in one of the Vera Wang uniforms. So
I could see it. I could see it. I loved his Stairway to Heaven, the original red and black, and the purple is just confounding and And then I find, like, that, is it tealish? It looks like, kind of looks... Do you remember, like, when you went to Grandma's house and they had the old TV in the basement and the colors were just, like, a little bit yellow? And you felt like you were watching, like, All in the Family, and everything was a little bit, like, yellow and brown and...
Had an Instagram filter on it, if you will. Yeah. Okay.
That sepia quality.
Yeah.
That's what Shoma's costumes both look like to me. Like,
the free isn't that unusual in person. Like it is. It just kind of looks like a regular blue, but on camera it looks a little weird. But the purple was definitely a strange choice. But
I believe in my Sergei, Katya told us that that Beethoven needed to wear blue for Beethoven. She said it needed to be a navy blue. So I felt like that was the definitive word on that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Now, the jump drill that Boyang Jin did in the free was, I thought, quite nice. I find the blades very distracting. These are way golder than Tanya. These are Bollywood actress levels of gold that are going on those
exactly.
blades.
This is QVC level gold.
The Black Hills Gold Rush. Yes.
That's right. It's interesting. I was trying to think, okay, so we might as well bring up Vincent at the same time, right? So here we have two people that we know aren't, for me personally, my aesthetically my favorite skaters. And I'm trying to figure out how I would compare the two of them in their skills. I think that Boyang has an advantage because he's using Laurie Nickel. And Laurie Nickel is helping him disguise in certain areas.
But I think Vincent is also now with Laurie, though it's newer. But didn't she? Yes.
Oh my God. Well, there goes that. Laurie did the Crouching Tiger program?
She did the free skate. Yeah.
Well, but is this their first collaboration?
It's like when the Kinnearums went to Christopher Dean and he said they can only do mohawks in 3 turns. Why did you send them to me? I mean, he just does not have the same ability to do that.
Yeah. And maybe didn't spend that much time with her because, Boyang has now worked with her for so much time. And she gave him key points. The final couple seconds of his free skate are so exciting and sharp and come alive and climax like out of nowhere. And the intro to his step sequence also. Boyang does have a bit more of an upright posture going on. Mm-hmm. But some of the skating skills, I don't know if it was that much better than Vincent.
On just the way he even projects his upper body, he's more of a performer, and it helps. Vincent struggles to get into his knees when he skates, and you could see the stiffness and the cheating of the jumps, and I think it all kind of works together. I think it all is the rhythm, the position. I think there's a lot that could kind of work together there. That there's like an inherent lack of skating skill that is a jerky kind of quality to when he goes up into the jumps. He doesn't have the same swoosh that Shoma does when you're just seeing the overall skill on the ice. And I think with Vincent, I think the fact there's so much jump focus, obviously, between Tom Z, Tammy is a drill sergeant, although Tammy tries to play the good cop with Vincent. Then you have Christy Crawl. And apparently in Colorado there is a lot of yelling amongst the coaches rather than a cohesive team approach. It is a too many cooks in the kitchen type of approach, and there's no manager to really oversee this. So then the problem that I see with these coaches is that no one is really looking at the big picture. No one is saying, yes, Vincent, that quad was okay, but what about the rest of the program? And you could tell that Shoma, Nathan, and Hanyu are all looking at the big picture. Even Koyeda looks at the big picture. He just misses the stuff.
Right.
He misses some of the trees, but because of mistakes. But I think with Vincent, it's just the detail work and the putting everything together is not happening every day. You know, when he does a run through, are they talking about the speed, the knee bend, the edges, or are they just checking off the jumps and saying if they were rotated or not? And then his mother is also a very strong presence in the rink every day. And I just think that the overall holistic approach is missing from his skating, and you could see it.
The interesting thing, though, is like we know he's like tried to seek help. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, you know, they're probably aware of the lack of PCS, although it's climbing. Mm-hmm. You know, he tried Mia Hamada and, mm-hmm. you know, going to other people that are like, well, the skating skills are lacking. I mean, but I don't know what plan they've actually been able to instill, you know, because it seems like they're trying to seek the help and people are resistant to helping for some reason or something.
You have to work on it every day. And I think that
it would have to be a mainstay kind of thing. Yeah.
So when Mia Hamada works with Tom Dixon, right, they both are talking about the same types of things and they're sharing information with each other that they agree with. Now, if you're a choreographer like Lori and you're working with Tom, do you trust that he's going to think about the integrity of what you're saying as much as Frank would? Or is Frank speaking the same language, right? Like, it has to deal with, like, reiterating what you work on every day and another coach who's going to talk about the same things. Right. Otherwise, you may skate and improve a little bit for the 4 days that you're in Toronto and when you pay all of that money, but then when you go home, are you maintaining...
You know, what was interesting in seeing, you know, 4 continents also, it's like you see all these, like, all the random countries early on that, you know, maybe sometimes I don't watch in other moments. And there was Andrew Dodds, mm-hmm. the gentleman from Australia who was an entry in both the men's mm-hmm. discipline and in the ice dance discipline. And actually looking at it, because Andrew Dodds is one of those, like, random Australian skaters.
He is one of the kings of the first group, yes.
Yes, that has just been around. But this time you were like, well, kind of the skating is a lot better. And certainly doing those kinds of ice dancing things matter. And I was like, can someone just make Vincent ice dance? Mm-hmm. Can you just make him get all his tests and, like, work with young partners and just get him going and see what happens? I don't know.
Yeah, I think he has even worked with Tom Dixon a bit, but I think it's the consistency, it's the working on it every day, and then it's having a coach that when you run the run-through is going to do it. Maybe have Tom Dixon run the run-through and talk about how you did the edges and the jumps, and then go and refine the jumps. I mean, there can be improvements that could be made in the overall approach. And I have a feeling Tom Z has just proven time and time again that he's missing the big picture. He does do.
Although, remember, Tom wasn't chosen to sit in the Kiss and Cry here. Vincent chose to sit with Tammy and Christy Crawl. But, yeah, I don't know. I do see improvement, though. I have to say it's not still my particular brand of skating, but I have seen efforts being made, even if they're in a small direction. Now, here's the thing I do want to say, though, because... again, I'm not such a nationalist when it comes to being a fan of skating. Like, I'm not just rooting for an American. Yeah. But there is a peculiar thing that's happening here with Tara and Johnny and just the USFS in general, kind of like really squashing Vincent and really putting him in his place and all of this sort of stuff. And I'm just curious what they hope to accomplish. Sometimes in the past, when I was particularly down on a skater like Max Aaron, for instance, it was because if we were vying for 3 spots, I wanted them to go to people like Jeremy, Josh, and Jason. But Vincent isn't really in competition with another American. He's not preventing another American from moving forward. And actually, in some instances, Vincent is kind of the reason we have 3 spots and Jason can go to Worlds this year, you know? So it's an interesting, he plays a part in the federation. Yeah. He plays a part in the U.S. team. It's not my style of skating. Yes, there are tons of under rotations, but I'm not quite sure. There just seems to be this feeling that something about USFS just wants to put him in his place.
First of all,
Tara
and Johnny, consider the source. They, at the beginning of the season, they were acting like Nathan and Vincent were going to be neck and neck this year, which we thought was outrageous. Johnny sometimes says things like 70% of the way that makes sense, and then there's like a whole level of him where you're like, what are you talking about, hon? There is a difference between Vincent and the top man, and I remember talking about this with Megan, where some of the rotation qualities have been so drilled in and ingrained with how he does things that it's difficult to see them actually improving, because he has been trained, with such repetition again and again and again. And the way he trains, I'm just not sure if we will actually see the steady improvement. Like, I don't even know if it's how possible some of it is, how much of it is ingrained. Obviously, things can get better. But in terms of him competing against Shoma or the like, I don't know. Because
and where he's going to get really lost in the mix are with the Keegans.
Yeah.
And this other tier that when they hit with less quads, but exciting quads and great spins and fast skating and these sorts of things, I think that's where he's really, it's the middle group.
I appreciate Vincent's effort, but when you watch him skate and you see the stiff leg and you see the spins that are maybe a +1 instead of a +4, and then you see someone like Keegan Messing who maybe has some Elvis Stojko-ish qualities, but he's going for the spins and he's going for the performance and he's skating with abandon and aggression.
Right.
It's easier to see the potential to rise or you see like a Junwon Cha, who, yes, he does jump too much with his arms and he struggles with the under rotations on the jumps, and he'll never be able to compete with the top men until he starts jumping more with his legs. But the overall attention to detail and development from his skating skills, jumps, artistry, spins all together, I have more faith that that's going to improve than Vincent at this point.
And the judges are already rewarding June with quality PCS marks. And I feel, given June's age, that as they continue to work with age and strength and those sorts of things like we were talking about before, I think those are very tangible things, and you see how they will grow easily for him. And it will be a huge force to be reckoned with when that time comes. But yeah, I don't understand the trajectory. I don't know what you do in Vincent's position here. He did get, like, the quad Lutz was right in front of us. It was clean as a whistle.
That was good. The other ones were not. And it is a little bit nails on the chalkboard. It's just like visually, you watch it and you're like, okay.
Right.
You see the hook in real time on several of the jumps, and it's the technique of the landing that hasn't really been addressed. And they've made explanations and excuses, but it's a fundamental technique that they have to either work on or just accept that it's not really going to get better. They just seem to be adding more quads, but it just seems to be reinforcing the problem. And maybe they're getting some more points because of the base value, but not because of the grades of execution. So,
right.
I mean, that's the only thing that I noticed. But what about Jason? He did go for the quad Sao Cow here. He's putting it back in. We've seen him do quad toes before, where he is not fully rotated, and then he's pulled them out, he put them back in. But what did you think of the overall performance here from Jason?
Well, again, the short program is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It was great. His energy was a little different here. It was a little more relaxed at nationals, which is interesting because we know, even though it's the domestic competition versus, arguably a more important international ISU competition, that sometimes the stress of nationals is far greater. I don't know if Brian's energy is different for Jason, because Brian kind of takes the lead at the boards, not Tracy, in this instance. And it just didn't seem as relaxed. He had a pretty good warm-up for the short, so that axel, step out was unfortunate, but it was still an incredible performance. And what he did, I'm not trying to be ironic and say what he did well, but he maintained those clean landings on the other things. And the Simon and Garfunkel this time for me, I didn't mind it as much. It had more of an arc emotionally, and he performed it so well. And it was a much better performance than at nationals, and it had a nice effect. The quad Sao, we kind of saw that landing in front of us, and it was a pretty clumsy kind of situation. And it wasn't the kind that made me think he's in any danger of really fully rotating it at Worlds or something like that. But I think if starting to incorporate that just go for it vibe is a part of the process, then I was glad to see it.
Yeah. I think he and Tracy have matching energy levels that works really well together. I think that he and Brian maybe have differing energy levels. Like Jason's very
I think
upbeat.
so, yeah.
I've always got... There's a little bit of an Eeyore-ish quality to Brian Orser that comes out a little bit, and it always kind of has. Even when he was competing against, there's like a slight dark energy.
Yeah, and sort of a bit more serious.
Yeah, serious, like it's not a bad energy. It's just a different energy.
And how it lines up with each person. Maybe someone doesn't want smiles.
I don't mean dark. I mean low energy. Sorry, like I'm thinking.
Yeah. Less bubbly than it seems like Tracy and Jason are sharing with one another.
And maybe she does need to take the lead there.
It could be possible. I mean, what did you think about the quad sow landing? I mean, did you think like...
I think it's good that he put it in at this juncture.
Yeah, okay.
At this juncture, in the past, there has been pressure on Jason to get 3 spots for the U.S., right? So 2017... Jason was really key in making sure that there were 3 spots for the U.S. at the Olympics, and they scaled back the technical content to make sure that he would be consistent. I think at this point in his career, if he is ever going to land quads in competition, they need to just keep going for it again and again and again and again.
That's kind of how I felt.
Yeah. Just take the fall, go for it. That is just the best thing that he could do is not pop it and just go for it even if he falls. I think that that's more of a step forward than a clean performance and maybe finish.
And that was nice to see here in comparison to what happened at Nationals, with the triple and then the pop, so it was encouraging, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think the fact that he is going for it will help him. I think Tracy said something more about, well, there are some mistakes, but it's improving. The plan, they're sticking to a plan. I think Tracy is going to guide us along the Underground Railroad of getting Jason to the next level. I also think there might be more pressure on him as well, because at Nationals, I think he knew that if he skated to his level, he would be in the top 3, no question, because of his overall quality, and I'm sure they talked about that beforehand to build him up. Here, there was a real risk of Jason getting lost in the shuffle, and you saw had he not made a mistake in the triple axel, he would have been quite higher in the rankings in the short program, and I think it buried him a bit here. Even with the mistakes, he was still 4th in the free skate. So and to watch, but what I will say is to watch his spins live, and this is something that he hits prettier positions than Keegan in the spins, but Keegan also a good spinner. What was so neat to see them do in these complicated IGS spins when they're looking for so many levels is that the speed often increased in the next position, where we see so many of the other skaters slow down with each continual change of position. So it was amazing to see it not only maintain its speed, but often accelerate. That's like the Atari thing for points, and they've really gone after the points with Jason since he's been in Toronto. What he can do, in the words of Scott Hamilton, he does really well, and we didn't see that before. His triple flip in the short program has brought me such joy. It has sparked me such joy all year.
You're keeping it. Okay.
And they do the kick out of it, and it's a +4 every time on a triple flip in senior men's. But it's amazing. And it's consistently amazing. And the spin is consistently amazing. And the step work sequence is great. And you're going to give him the components. And I was talking to Doug Haw, and I think that Brian has a little bit of a heteronormative approach to skating, where he thinks quad, quad, quad. Right? Rather than artistry, big picture, go for the points, and incorporate the quad. If you can.
Well, he's not necessarily had a Jason.
No, he hasn't.
Ever before.
He's very like he thought June was going to be the one here talking to Doug Haw. Doug Haw was like, "Now June he's skating well." However, Doug Haw, and I said, I'm like, I think Jason has a shot this year. There's just the way he is skating, the steady improvement when he does
the sense of self, and there's an aesthetic, there's a confidence to it that's not just in its exquisite quality, but in an inherent authentic voice that he's bringing. And it's just, there's something he's skating for the joy of skating in a little bit, like he's had some epiphany about skating or something, and it transforms the arena when it happens.
Yeah, there's more of a confidence, a quality and excellence when he skates.
Yeah.
Now, June is a skater who is growing and he does things very well, but there are under rotations and they seem like the mistake. He skated so many times this season. He's maintained an overall high level of consistency, but it does feel like the wheels are starting to come off the bus a little bit. Like it just seems like he's.
I think we're ready for his next season.
Yeah,
because it did start so soon, and he had a lot to prove this season, and he has really made like a huge splash. But I do see it starting to wear, and maybe it's time for the new material, and it's hard to apply some of the growth you're experiencing in your skating and applying it to the thing you've been doing already for so long. So. But a real engaging performance in person, which was nice to see.
It's just so interesting because so many of these skaters, especially the Japanese men, jump from their legs so beautifully. And then you see June, who jumps from his arms like the Russian ladies, and there is such a difference in the height that you're seeing in the jumps. And you could really see it as a noticeable difference in June compared to the other men. And in the ladies, people get very defensive as if they're being attacked. And it's just a noticeable difference. Right. Because your legs are stronger muscles than your arms in terms of lifting your body. And you could really see the difference here. Because even with Keiji Tanaka, not the most consistently brilliant skater, but when he was jumping, he was really doing some wonderful thing with height.
And just the posture in general also just created a stronger appearance of each jumping pass. Yeah. Where June is a bit more rounded.
Yeah. And I think that June will get there, but they do have to work on it. Now, before it's too late.
Right.
Because with Vincent, there's a window with this that can happen.
Absolutely.
With Tomoki, though, what a career moment for him so far. I mean, he had the Junior Nationals win. He went to Korean Rohin. It went wrong early on. He then moved to Christy Crawl. Christy Crawl helped him break away from 7K. It seems like it's getting better now for him overall. But what is your take on him? Because he's one that I think there are so many guys in the U.S. who have been middling, and he got that pewter, and he is riding the wave. So many people.
And he wrote it really perfectly here because the moment at Nationals was not without flaws, but it was still an exciting, clear step into the next level. And then for him to have taken that, he had the slight issue with the axle in the short here, just like he did at Nationals. But the performance quality is pretty incredible. And you could tell he was riding it and he was more confident here. And I didn't know if he was going to get nervy, like now he had to back it up or something like that. And it was an epic moment. It was cleaner. And even though it ended 8th, to say, he was 8th at 4 continents may not sound, on paper like thrilling news, but it was a huge deal because this men's field was so incredible. And he really solidified himself. Technically also really great posture, landings, it was great.
I think, and the more performance quality is coming out, which has never been his strength, and it's growing. I think with Tomoki, the talent is there. And look, he beat Brendan Carey, Nam Nguyen, Nicholas Nadeau, Kazuki Tomono. I mean, he beat some really credible skaters.
And this is great material for him also. And it really served him well. They were effective. They climbed, they had good arc to it. And as he was hitting, it was the kind of program that was growing in intensity in every way. So it was really an amazing moment in person.
It's encouraging because I think the U.S., look, at the beginning of the season, we weren't sure how competitive Jason was going to be with these new rules and how's it going to come out. And there's that crop of the Camden, the Krasnozhan, the Torgashev, who have been showing this potential and the potential for several seasons. But it's middling. And there are things that are just not improving, or they're rocky. Tomoki's stepping forward. He's stepping forward.
He's put himself in a different category. Yes, no, he's not those top 3, but he's not those middle guys either. So he's safely in that next group.
Yeah, I think we'll see more improvement in the future. Hopefully he's getting over the hump because he's had a rough 2.5 years, but this season has been one that
I hope this is the beginning of something. Yeah.
So let's talk about the ladies because this was quite the event.
Yes, it was.
The short and the free were 2 very different worlds.
Correct.
And I want to talk to you about components in the short and reasons. And So Bradie Tennell won the short program.
Mm-hmm.
There were some really spot-on performances. And as amazing as Bradie is, I thought the fact that she beat Mariah in what I like to refer to, in the ladies' components, I break it down into two categories. There's skating skills and transitions, which are more of the Carolina components.
Okay.
And then there is performance execution, choreography, and interpretation. And I really consider those the Ashley Wagner component marks.
Okay.
And it is not a diss, but it is a reality where the first two, Ashley may be like a 7.75. And then in the Ashley Wagner marks of performance, execution, choreography, interpretation, those are where she is going to have to shine. I thought the fact that Bradie beat Mariah Bell by 0.5 in those three marks, that's what Mariah has. That's the strength. That's where she was arguably better than everyone in that short program. And they didn't give it to her. And I thought that it was wrong. But you can understand because Mariah Bell, when she is at a position, and this is the reality of how skating is judged, when she is up, in third after a short program and is in position to really make her move and establish her reputation, she then falls back in the free skate. And they don't expect her to do well. And it's being a ranking
I don't
system.
know that I was as offended by that scoring as you were. And I like this. We're going to have a nice little discussion about it. Okay. I know you were. And I wasn't so much. For me, Bradie in person, for the short program especially, it's interesting how polarizing this program has been for, I think, a lot of viewers. And in person, it's sharp and gives but now when she's doing the same sharpness and the same kind of angular arms for Romeo and Juliet, then I start to wonder about it. But in the short, it's very effective. And she has better tension in her hands and stuff when she creates those moments versus Mariah in person is a little laid back about
loosey-goosey.
Yeah, which is beautiful because I know she's loose and like all of these sorts of things in her arms. I mean, and like it's a nice feeling, but it's a little relaxed. And
the shoulders are very relaxed with Mariah.
Yeah, but it almost
too relaxed.
It doesn't create an intensity of performance. And I think Adam did the Celine choreography, correct? And to me, it's because I see Adam skating it. I don't see Mariah skating it. And this is part of, finding a choreographic voice for someone like Adam. I felt he did this for him. Even that big moment, where she goes back on the silence and then the boom of the music. It's an exciting moment, but it's not totally an authentic moment. That's a moment Adam would sell, and Mariah looks like she's doing someone else's selling moment, is how it reads in person.
So Mariah, the one thing I'll say about her is that she just seems like a really nice girl, who likes to skate, seems to have a normal family. The older sister was a nice skater, not as good as Mariah, so she doesn't have that inadequacy complex going on. She doesn't seem to have anything to inherently prove on the ice, we've heard that Bradie, her parents had a rough divorce, there's, they don't have the same means as maybe some other skaters. She has more to fight for on the ice. And I think with Mariah, sometimes like that underlying thing where Danny Kwan is going to chuck skates across the parking lot is missing from Mariah a little bit. Like, it's Alex Zarashev being like, you must be bitch. Well, look at how Rika Kihira fought, even with that injured finger that she slammed into the ice.
Yeah.
She was a mess in practices until she was fifth in the short program, and then she snapped out of it overnight to deliver that.
Right.
I think with Mariah, that same fighter quality just doesn't seem to be who she is. She's a nice skater. She needs like Nancy Kerrigan's sports psychologist to kind of really bring out of her this next level. It's lovely.
Well, or perhaps a different kind of program then that could help inspire that kind of intensity from her. Because again, it feels like Kurt Browning Singing in the Rain energy. A bit, and beautiful. She's a beautiful skater, no question about it. But also the landings, even when they're at her cleanest, don't appear as precise and as no nonsense as Bradie's appear when she's hitting in the short, especially.
So for the landings, yes, although Mariah's combination was the best it was all season in the short.
Yes, absolutely.
But those 3 marks in the free, I have to say, even the skating skills are debatable between Bradie and Mariah, because the one thing is that Bradie skates on a stiff knee the whole time. It's her personality. She's more of a perfectionist, more tighter, even those angular movements. But her knee, it looks like a pogo stick is going up and down when she is doing the short program because of the stiffness rather than relaxing the knee. And that's just from tension. That's just something to work on. She's so exact and precise, and that's very positive when it comes to consistency in the jumps, but you could really see in the skating quality, she does not have the Japanese stiff knee, she doesn't have the Japanese relaxed knee going on, this wonderful sinking into the ice quality, and you can really see it. And for me, it just the overall choreography effect, the performance, I really felt like Mariah was shining and giving it. There on that night, I thought that she owned the performance, and
they both do skate quickly. I mean, so that part, and they both do cover a lot of ice.
Yeah.
So I mean, those are 2 things that they both have inherently, also, which is nice. But
I do think that even your own judges have to politic for you in the meeting before the competition. They have to promote you, and they may have gone for Bradie and not really advocated for Mariah as much because they may not be pushing her as much because they don't trust her in the same way. Bradie, you expect to go out there and nail it.
Right.
And it is what it is. At this point, it's just been what's happened over history. But I think that Mariah's made a lot of improvements this year, but I get the sense that you watch Raphael and you watch their interactions in the kiss and cry, and though he likes her, I get the sense that
it seems frivolous. I can see how she comes across as frivolous, which I don't believe she is. I believe she just likes skating and is trying to keep perspective on things.
But he knows this is not going anywhere long term.
But it's not the same warrior focus I bet he gets from certain other skaters. Like Mia Hamada knows the difference between Marin and the difference between Satoko's level of focus. And I think, he can see that difference here.
And I think Mariah works really hard. I think she trains hard. I think it's just the overall delivering competition. He was talking to her about the speed going into the Lutz and just losing the focus in competition.
But what makes me a little interested, and we've talked about this back and forth about Raphael's technique, because sometimes, the angle on the axel entrance is for me a little exaggerated, but because I don't never necessarily want to see, be noticing technique. But same thing with the beautiful Korean skater. Eunsoo. But
who Frank was very taken by the way.
Well, she's a beautiful skater. Yeah. I know, I was sitting with him.
Oh, I didn't know you were there in the short.
Oh, not in the short. For the long, I was sitting with him. And Mitch Moyer.
How's Mitch?
So anyway, when we saw...
Did he send us good vibes?
I don't know the description of that particular
he always
job.
Says, I've met him before. Several times. Remember when he called me like 14
There was kind
times.
of a vacant wall.
And he seems nervous to run into you as if he saw a ghost. When do you see it?
That's a perfect way to say it. And at first I was like, is this something weird about...
No, that's a person who's insecure, who's coming
I have seen him do that to then everyone that came up to him, including Linda Frediani, who only looked like $1,000,000.
How's Linda?
Of course. Are you kidding? You could see that hair coming from a mile away. And as she came down and she was saying hi, Frank, and everything, and I was like, Linda, the hair. And she's like, I know, right?
I didn't see a picture of you with Linda.
I know, it was just during the ice surfacing, and she was there with Nicola Roche, and they had to go back to their seats, so all this sort of stuff. So
what Hollywood film did she look like she was a part of when she?
Oh, some sort of glamorous, Farrah Fawcett, something or other.
Yes. But usually, I like Linda in an evening gown, off the shoulder. I picture her.
Yeah, she was in, come on, cheek to toe fur for sure, and she looked all glam. She always
killed
does.
that animal herself. I sure hope so. Yeah. She gets her way with real fur. I don't care.
Amazing. Oh,
yeah. Back to the important things.
Wait, okay, Dave, put a pause in it for a second, because there is a safe sport story.
Okay, so I paused this because Jonathan, we were debating if we wanted to mention the word safe sport, but we'll let him for the sake of this. This is a funny that's not going to offend anyone. So
there were these seminars where they're explaining to coaches, you know, different generations with different sort of perspectives on things.
Different words that have different connotations.
Yes, Krista Fosse was there, Linda Freddie Annie was there, and they were explaining, you have to be careful because sometimes we don't want coaches or people in positions of power grooming their students. And Linda was like, well, why isn't the mother grooming them and doing their hair for the competition? And they were like, Linda, I love you so much. So no, Linda, not grooming in terms of hair.
Your packaging, that's what that meant. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Gotta love Linda.
I love her so much. Yeah.
Oh man, she is.
But in any case, so
did she say hello to Annette Poje? Because she was there. She liked Annette.
She said very nice things about Annette. That it was Dagmar. It was West Germany that was giving her problems, not East Germany.
I sent her the Jutta Mueller documentary.
That YouTube link, I'm sure she just picked up right on that. Easy peasy.
No, she wrote back to me. I wrote her this really long thing. I said, Linda, you're in this. And I said, I know normally you probably wouldn't want to watch this, but I actually think you'd find it really interesting and almost therapeutic in a way to watch. Yeah. She was a really nice person, and it wasn't
and Linda always said that she was a really nice competitor. Yeah, but again, West Germany was a different story.
No, and she wrote back with a wink, and I think she watched it. Yeah, and she liked it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I like it. But in any case, I do also like Eunsoo. She was a gorgeous skater in person, but some of the jump landings were a bit squirrely at times in the landings, in the same way I find Mariah's to be squirrely at times. And I don't know if that just happens to be something that happens, or if this is kind of a Raphael situation.
She seemed like she was overdoing it a little bit with some of the jumps, getting into the air. And it seemed like she was landing on the whole blade, which is a problem with the takeoff.
Okay.
And just with the overall. And I've noticed just watching her as the season has progressed, is it seems like she's running out of gas a little bit, and just looks a little bit, skating a little bit tired, you know? Like
giving energy in the wrong way, you're saying, because she's giving too much in certain areas and then kind of burning out.
Yeah, and it just looks like a little exhausted. Just from the season has been so long. She started way back at the first senior B with the Asian trophy, and it's been going all the way. Remember, there were 2 trips to Korea back to back. I mean, the skaters have to rest, then come back up with the peaking, and I just don't think that the arc of the season for a couple of the Korean skaters is helping them maximize their potential this season. You can see it with Junhwa Cha as well.
Yeah, I mean, the jet lag for some of these skaters had to be also completely absurd. You know what I mean? Like that final flight of ladies, they were skating at 10 p.m. I'm sure they thought it was crazy. And they deal with jet lag a lot of the time. But a lot of the Asian time zones to West Coast time, it's really screwy. I imagine it was tough.
Now, for her, she trains in California, but I just think that it just
All right, I was trying to give her the benefit of the doubt after she went back for Korea and lost to Young Yu, but okay.
I know. That was a rough one. But I just think that overall, some of these girls look a little bit tired. Yeah. And some of them look like the stress. I mean, it takes a toll on you. You always see the skaters like... Everyone loses weight from stress throughout the season as it goes along, and some of these skaters could use some R&R and vacation and good fats, like a good avocado. You know, they could just find joy, spark joy.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Some of these skaters look worn down at this point in the season, as the programs do as well.
Depleting, I think. And even, I was saying this to you, I was like, it's like this is the 300th time we've seen this, because they're now competing so much, and actually bringing it full circle back to Linda. Remember, she was like, are you kidding? I would do like one competition, then a Skate America, the Nationals and Worlds. That was like it. It was so much easier to peak and do all those sorts of things.
But you can really see it. And so, like, the ranking competition in Korea probably needs to go. Unnecessary.
It seems so redundant.
Yeah. It just seems actually harmful to the skaters.
Right.
Overall. So, and they didn't get a big crowd at either one. So I think it didn't...
Yeah.
So,
but Yaelin Kim did a nice job here.
Yes.
Yeah, it was nice to see her.
I have to say, as nice as she is, that meditation from Thijs is like grand dame music that I think of the most exquisite skaters using to. It's so difficult to skate to with the tension. It seems too mature for her at this point. I think the overall idea of the music and her being such a soft, lilting lyrical
bit heavy
skater,
for her. Yeah, I agree.
It's too much, I think, and the music wears her. Rika, I thought really.
Well, you know what? I'm just going to be that loser opera guy for 2 seconds, I promise. But Thais is that story about this priest who falls in love with a hooker, and then he gives up the church so he can be with her, and then the hooker from Alexandria then goes to the desert, and she becomes a religious, like, nun type person, then she dies of, like, a horrible sexually transmitted disease, and out here comes, like, this, like, beautiful young girl skating lyrically, and I was like, not a fit, it's not a fit.
How many times did you use the word hooker? Well, and then they're going to be like, he said it while talking about a skater. Oh my God.
I should have said courtesan.
Doug Ha! I am, like, really having, like, PTSD.
Okay, take it out.
No, it's okay. We'll just leave it. Okay, you're telling the story of the opera and not the skater. Just please make it sure that you are.
Yes, exactly. It was just another, the subject of the opera is also gravitas, yet another reason that
I thought she was making an homage to Una Kim's exhibition in Vancouver. And
Sure. Yeah. Great.
Oh, dear God. Jonathan, I think my life was flashing before my eyes.
Opera is scandalous. Beware. Skating to it.
Oh, dear. I don't think Gilles Lim understood that music at all, and I'm glad that she didn't. Okay.
Oh, Ting, Dave.
Ting needs to skate from her knees, Jonathan. Again, it's lovely, but it's too much up, way so much upper body. And
because it's what's really selling me is the arms are so exquisite.
Yeah.
So that part's all working, and it was nice to see the short go so well, but unfortunately, I feel like we only expect one half to really do what we want it to. And now, it's my understanding that in between nationals and this event, that they did that Junior Worlds camp.
Yes.
What on earth are you doing to Ting that you would send her from nationals to another intense Junior Worlds camp and then set her up to already be? So, now we know that she,
when you're talking to Mitch Moyer, this is where Mitch Moyer. It would help if some of these coaches went to college and had an overall experience in brain and development, and why someone like Frank with that kind of experience is much better in the role than Mitch. Mitch, honestly, to God, should have watched her performance at Nationals and said, okay, you have the spot, go to 4 continents. Done. Сделано.
Right.
Like, come on. Like, you didn't know who you were going to send. If you watched Nationals, I think you knew that Ting and the girl from Texas who can actually jump were going to go to Junior Worlds. Maybe you didn't know what to do in the men's because Camden Pulkkinen was such a hot disaster at Nationals, but he was good at a Grand Prix, and for him, maybe send Camden there and see what he could do and watch.
But what are you doing? I don't understand the purpose of having that camp so soon after Nationals, because what has changed in a week's period of time?
It may just be when they can get all of the officials there, but
then it seems pointless. Then it seems like, well, if that's the only time.
Are you kidding? They can know who they're going to send. They just need to find a reason. They told Deanna and Nate that Tier 2 counts more than Tier 1, which Tier 1 would be Nationals. They can do whatever they want with who they send this in.
And that's tricky because
you're going to be a bitch. Be a bitch and send who you want to be, Jonathan. Okay? Own it.
Yeah.
Be
because
like, Deanna, you're 45. We're going to send this skater. Okay? We're going to send Ting. We're going to send this. Star Andrews, your skating skills aren't there, and we can't unsee Skate America. That's what they... You just have to be definitive and own your decision. And it's this stupid cam...
Well, you didn't set Ting up as well as you could. Now, could Ting have made this kind of implosion on her own without the training camp? I believe... Probably, but I think it certainly didn't help her chances. So now it's like kind of this weird double sabotage. Mm-hmm. Not only is 4 continents so soon after Nationals, but now you've made it even more tiring, and she's not quite putting the same kind of efforts into what she might normally be doing to prepare for 4 continents. It seemed like a real poor choice.
Well, some of our sources who have more of a historical knowledge say that Colorado will be a blip in the career of where they hope to end up, and And we had heard that going into Four Continents, and then if you watch the Kiss and Cry, and from reports of what happened after the Kiss and Cry, it seems like there will be a coaching change in the future. That seems
But I wouldn't anticipate that happening before Junior Worlds. It's probably not enough time. Yeah.
But I think it needs to happen. I think it desperately needs to happen. This is a skater who needs an individualistic approach. There needs to be more attention to the choreography. There needs to be more attention to skating from the legs and jumping from the legs. And I think that...
And it's interesting because, sitting next for that, he was like, this music is very difficult. He's like, I love this music. It's gorgeous music. It's incredible, that free skate. However, he was like, Ting is rushing right now, and the music is rushing her. The music is inspiring her to rush instead of actually helping with what she needs the assistance with, I think. So, yeah.
We need to send her to Alyssa and Yuka, and for the summer, just that holistic approach. I mean, wherever they want to go, but there's
something very special there. The hands, the deportment, the kind of way she carries herself is very special. So I hope they're able to kind of create a path a little more clearly moving forward.
I think she got a lot of the positive rotation skills from Vincent, and but also the chaotic training environment is reflective in the performance and the inconsistency. So I think we'll see improvement in the future. So it just does not look to be working to maximize her ability, and she is one of the U.S. skaters that will likely be there in 2 to 3 years. So
yes, so much potential. I mean, I want to see it honed. It's not,
Bradie and Mariah, it's unclear. Bradie, again, how many times are you going to miss the triple Lutz, triple loop before the coach says the numbers and the percentages aren't there? You have to take it out, keep training it. But it's and with Bradie, this is, some people, Ting, you think long term. Bradie, she's potentially at the peak of her career right now. Right. These are the titles that she could win, the medals she could win, and this is officially a lost opportunity. Right. Hopefully they'll put in the toe. That's something, again, where Mitch Moyer should say, take the loop out. Percentage-wise,
it just seems pointless. Yeah. I don't understand. There's no reason to not do the toe, really. At first I was like, just blanking, and I was like, is she doing 2 other triples that both have triple toes on the end? And then once I realized, like, no, of course she's not doing that. Then I was like, then this literally makes no sense. It's literally the most nonsensical thing ever. And in the warm-up, it was also a struggle. Mm-hmm. It's not like she does it every time and then under the lights of the actual competition panics. Like, the warm-up was also very unusual about it. So I don't know why you would set yourself up with that.
A loop takes some finesse to do as the second jump, and because she's a stiffer skater, it's going to be harder to get into that position to begin with, and then ride.
And very close to the boards on that. Yeah. I think there's a panic adjustment that is also happening sometimes. I mean, this just looked like an Euler.
Yeah.
What she did here. Yeah.
But it's a bit of a maddening mistake, and obviously she seems very determined. And I wonder if she wants to do it to get those points because she feels like she's not going to get the second mark. But honestly, she would get the GOE if she just did the Lutz toe, and it would be much more successful.
I believe she's just doing what she's told. So okay. I think that this kind of right. She strikes me as someone who will do as directed.
She seems like a pretty headstrong person, though, too. Like she seems like I think that's part of the key to her success. She may want to go for it, but again, that's where when you've had a coach that has been there before, they can kind of look at the big picture and say, there's a lot of pressure at Four Continents. You're in a different stage of your career now. Now you're expected to do well. You have to do what you know you can hit every single time. And the Lutz loop has been proven to be something she doesn't hit every single time. So
Right.
Yeah. I think overall this was a lost opportunity. Hopefully, you look at the marks that they gave her in the short, she would have been on the podium for sure here. So
right. Yeah, especially given, Sakamoto's errors. You know what I mean? Like, the opportunity was there should she have delivered, but...
Yeah. So, she is a wonderful skater to watch. And I think I tweeted something, and there was a misunderstanding there, but when you watch the differences in the skating quality, the other skaters are doing more one-foot skating. They are giving you more, and she has a lot of speed, but it comes from 2 feet. It's a little bit Elvis Stojkovic at times, but
it is exciting.
It's exciting, and she's likable.
Yeah.
She's likable, and she's endearing, and she's fun to root for. But it's not Carolina Kostner skating going on. But
no, and when they do those spirals, it's the kind where, you know how sometimes if you're doing like, I don't know, Pilates or something, and you bring your legs up and then you're supposed to slowly let them down instead of just let them fall. Like that's kind of reminds me of her spiral. She just like throws her torso forward and lets like gravity tilt her leg up for the spiral position. But the speed and the actual edges it's a kind of a Keegan quality.
Yeah.
Like it kind of has that like low barrel kind of like the way she warms up, even the edges, you see that speed skater-esque kind of athleticism to it.
It was really shocking to me that they seem to really like her consistency and the fact that she's a hard worker in Japan. But in terms of the overall skating, I still remain shocked that she won nationals when Rika had just won the Grand Prix final, had done well earlier in the season, and it had delivered enough, I thought, at nationals to give her the nod, especially with the difference in the skating quality.
But the interesting thing here, and I am a huge Rika fan, and I was very excited to see her in person, and I'm very aware that the finger thing, even though it sounds super painful, and you're like, well, how much is it, is it hurting? But like, as you would see her skate around in the warm-up, you could see her kind of like holding it out a little bit, like even the air brushing past it she must have felt it. But in general, I was surprised. She was considerably slower than I anticipated. And she doesn't quite cover the same amount of ice as someone like Sakamoto does. I prefer Rika's skating in general. And the triple axel was so beautiful and effortless, it almost just goes by in a way.
But is she skating on 1 foot or 2 when this is happening?
Yeah, it is much more complex choreography and things like that. But there is something to be said for the energy that came out of Sakamoto by comparison.
Yeah, and I think that could be fair. That's a fair point.
But I far prefer Rika. Yeah. And I think the program is beautiful, and it's that kind of school. That Miyahara school has just that extra edge of sophistication to it, where you see in Maya and Sakamoto, there's a different approach.
I think that Mai Mihara did a really nice job here. It was really pleasant, especially in the free skate. We have seen the program before. It is in the wheelhouse. She does go to one of the most competitive universities in Japan, so she is balancing skating and academics. Just a really nice moment for her. She didn't expect to medal here. I thought that it was just satisfying and a nice moment. Feel good.
Yeah, it was just kind of lovely. And, sometimes we've said, does she have a particular personality on the ice? But it was an enjoyable watch. It was just a little bit generic, but it was enjoyable. And the jumps, they had a real whippy quality to them. But when she delivered them in the free, it made for a nice performance. That music is completely offensive to me.
The mission?
Yes. Well, as it's sung. Not the mission itself, but I was like, where did this version come from? Please stop. It's really detracting and making it more awkward for everyone. So.
I have to say, the Terzin-Baeva attention that is being paid by Eteri is really humorous to me, because you remember that obviously she was from Orser, and she went from Brian Orser to Eteri, and Eteri seems to be proving a point with, look at how much they're putting into this girl and how much better she looked. She was like priority number 7 at the cricket club, didn't get that many lessons per week, wasn't even there that often, but they're really developing her. She's not super young anymore, although she's a very slight skater, not super young, but she was in this camp previously and did leave for a reason, because she probably wasn't priority number 5 or 6 even back then.
Right.
But now they're putting stuff into her, and it's fun for her to see the success, and it's funny to see them put this extra energy in. I mean,
she is benefiting. She is benefiting from this sort of stuff,
and this grudge match that is happening. Yeah,
it only stands for her to benefit, because when she started the season, I thought, oh my gosh, this is a brilliant move for her, because given sort of her frame and her kind of overall aesthetic, it melds so well with those Atiri girls that have had big success. So the minute she got there, it just kind of all seemed to be like the right fit for her. And, you know, that quad attempt was completely around. She just lost it at the last minute. But and she is striking some pretty pictures on occasion, more than she certainly ever did before. It's just getting that Atiri thing. That Atiri program has been placed, and it worked here because it was the only one like it. So then
and it's so good for them because they can say, well, she's over 18. Now in reality, she's the tiniest skater you have ever seen.
Yeah,
she still looks like she could. If you told me that she was as old as Tursunbayeva and Sorry, Tursunbayeva is the person we're talking about. Sorry, I'm so tired. Trusova, Kosternaya,
yeah. And I completely knew who you meant. I was like, yes.
If you told me that she was in the same class in school as them, I'd be like, oh, of course. Yes, she looks that young. But,
well, it's that same body type that they have a technique that works really well for. So you just knew that it was going to be a fit. And like we said in the junior nationals recap, if you're going there, you know what you're signing up for. You know the program you're going to get. You know the component marks you'll probably get if you execute that properly. And she's just enacting that. She can make a big step, and she's having a moment. Because I think it's like you said, she didn't expect this comeback, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that it's re-energizing her, and I think they're putting more energy into her, building her up more, because they have a point to prove, and it's fun to watch. Right. It makes me like Atiri even more. I have to say, she is so entertaining.
And it's given us a much more viable candidate in her, for placement at Worlds. And that just makes it for more interesting competition.
Yeah.
Another interesting level. And it's so interesting because in the same way junior nationals, we were like, oh my gosh, not another Atiri program. And yet here, amidst all the other sort of regular North American and Asian approaches to the choreography, to see that actually was in a way innovative because it was the only thing like it here.
I wish she came.
Yeah. But talk about a schlep load of travel for all of them. Because
Don't you want to see her on a California beach? I mean, come on. When you were entertaining all of your fans at that restaurant, she could have walked by you at happy hour, Jonathan. Come on.
I highly doubt it. She doesn't strike me like she's going to like American bars and grills in between the events. But
look, she looks like she subsists on vodka and celery. I think that she could definitely fit in. Please, the diet.
Exactly.
Maybe a little kale, I think,
Yeah.
But fine. She is still at her... Look, I found that video of her. If you
the ice dancing in the green dress?
Yes.
Yeah.
Loved it.
It was interesting.
She was a little awkward of a skater. A little stiff, but mesmerizing at the same point.
Right.
So, loved it. Also, you need to watch Nikolai Morozov skate in 1994. Not the most talented skater back then. But again, has something to prove as a coach. He was doing a lot of toe pick pushes on the ice. That was an interesting one. And did you read the Novka article?
No. Oh, yes, I did, about the the one. Yes.
I love when there is a crossover between skating and politics and
politics, yeah.
And I just love that she's connected to Agalarov, and we hear about Agalarov at that meeting with Trump Tower, and Novka seems like someone that we're destined to remember her. She makes an appearance every couple of years. Remember, she had that viral moment when she did a Schindler's List program, which is such old news here, right? Yeah. But all of a sudden the public was like, they're skating a Schindler's List in these very literal costumes with the makeup. It was really fascinating. She's
much. Yeah, it was extra.
And again, it was Amerbuk who did that program. Look, she's gorgeous. She's a personality. I'm here for it. And I would like the Trump family to start dating former skaters, ballerinas, and gymnasts the way
to get them in the news.
The way that Putin and his people do. I think that the Trumps need to get rid of the beauty queens. I think that we could get Don Jr. a wife. I mean, I think Nastia is available. Maybe Sasha Cohen is single as well. I think that
Isabella Tobias even, she might be available.
Well, she's married, but that type.
Oh, sorry. Okay, never mind.
Glamorous, well coiffed. Yes, I think that I would like to see them, in the Duma. Who do you think would be the best? Who would excite you the most to see as the trophy wife of one of the Trumps? Anyway, their pair event. Jonathan, you are the biggest Vanessa and Morgan fan in the history of ever.
But I'm also the biggest Sui and Han fan.
I know. In your heart, it has to be torn.
I know.
They don't look like they're fully trained and ready yet, and I'm not sure if they can do it in the time they have, but I think they'll make a valiant effort. What do you make about... how is your heart feeling about Sui and Han against Vanessa and Morgan? Your head and your heart. What are they telling you? Are they fighting with each other?
I think Vanessa and Morgan are safe. I think they're safe. I don't, for the time being, given the circumstances. Sui and Han, you're aware that something could go awry with her at any moment, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit nervy. The warm-ups were rather scary, but they're incredible. Mm-hmm. The short program, as we kind of saw at Chinese Nationals, it's not a total home run for me.
I like it more over time as they sell it.
Yeah. Now, the free I'm here for, especially those opening few movements. I mean, and some of that, the angular modern stuff in front of the judges halfway through the program. It's remarkable. The throws are remarkable. When he gives her the lift, she finds it. And we can talk about this with Haven also, because it's so fascinating. These girls that can rotate beautifully and land beautifully, they just can't seem to find the up, in that initial thing. And that's a bit what's happening with Sui here. And the speed they just looked like it was their first major competition out. But her lift positions are unbelievable. And that free dance, I think, will be very special the more they get it into their bodies.
That last lift, like especially, and the musicality of the program.
All those poses, just incredible.
They're a much more refined team than Vanessa and Morgan. They just look untrained to me because of the injuries. The problem is that she has had a major injury almost every single year, so many times throughout their careers. They train them very hard in China. It is not a shock that someone would be injured based on the amount of throws that they practice and what we have read about the training methods. Although, obviously, it has resulted in some wonderful positions, but, her health seems to always be a question mark. And then that leads to questions of consistency. I just wonder... And she has had problems with the triple toe this season, but the triple Salchow is traditionally a really difficult element for her. And why don't they put that jump earlier in the program? Because as the fifth element, when you're starting to get tired...
Speaking of Trusova, isn't that what she skates to, the fifth element? Oh. Okay, keep going.
What a punny person you are, Jonathan.
Yeah, okay.
I think... the fifth element, it's hard. And look, if they get rid of it, even if it's a quarter cheat, and they just stand it up, you would just be so...
Because she's not going to do the double. I think she will always try to go for it. And she was so far tilted, but she saved some really wonky positions here as well. So I didn't know, she had a really upsetting... warm up for the free, and she kind of was getting it towards the end, but I just felt like the timing of this just may just be rushed. That's all.
I think for this year it's a rush to get ready. People weren't even sure if they would necessarily be ready to compete at the Worlds. But if you do watch the Olympic practice sessions, the videos that are on YouTube, she was missing the Salchow then in the run-throughs. So you just have to wonder about that. That's always the question mark jump for them. So and I think they do need it this year. I don't think they can just go for double axels and play it safe. I think that they will, because Vanessa and Morgan have such a special program. And the other problem is they have so much momentum. They have so much momentum, and they've delivered every single time. And judges reward that, even if they don't have the same skating skills. They've had the magic. They've done it. Sui and Han have to deliver a clean short and then hope they can hang on in the long.
But Vanessa and Morgan are going to be able to give them speed, I think, and they're going to be able to give them a lot of projection and confidence. And that, understandably so for Sui and Han, was lacking a little bit. You could tell going into certain elements that there was an element of focus that was happening and concentration that was happening. You just saw it a bit more, understandably so. They just weren't at ease totally yet. But when they do, I hope if they only go to Worlds, I guess is the only other time we may see this long. I kind of hope they keep it for next season, because I think when they hit, the potential for this program to make an impact is enormous. If they end up getting a different short program, I think I'm okay with that. But
I wonder if they'll be invited
special.
To the World Team Trophy. I forget how that works with how the initial invites go. I have this feeling that they're not going to be at the World Team Trophy. I have a feeling it may go to Boyang Jin based on rankings and how many times they've competed this year. And Sui and Han have missed so many competitions over the last 3 seasons. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But wonderful to see them back. And so appreciative of their quality, mesmerizing. And I think you have a crush on KMT.
Oh my gosh. She is so incredible. And she just, her story is the one I identify with the most, I think. And I'm just rooting for her. And to see in certain American pairs, for instance, the partners that are more limited, Michael Marinaro started rather limited and has really made giant strides. So it's like improvements can be made, you guys. If you put your efforts in the right areas, things can get better, because he has improved a great deal. It's still not totally, the quintessential pair skater at the moment, but he has grown so much, and she just sells and sells. She saved everything. She was sticking everything no matter what. And their skating then, compared to Sui and Han, even though it may not be as sophisticated in certain ways, again, it was filling out the ice. It was twice as fast. It had a different kind of projection. And that lift, though, I will tell you what. So we saw it from behind, and you saw her literally be freaking out because she could not figure out where her hand was.
She could have really gotten hurt. Yeah.
And the core, she must have, that was all sheer willpower. I'm surprised she didn't spasm or something like that, because she was just
girl's doing her
eccentrics.
So. Look, and she's always see her working out.
Yeah, I mean, that was sheer willpower and core strength that got her through that. And then she was just like, I felt like inventing ways to try to make up some level in the same way Deanna was describing, about the lift at Nationals. So I was really proud of her, and to see it was so close, I'm sure was a
She had the most Canadian response ever. Like,
yeah.
Oh! Now, we know that she is a feisty girl, but in the kissing fight, it was so Canadian. The way, I mean, Deanna would already be cursing about that lift as soon as they left the ice.
Right.
We saw it here. And Alexa would either be mad or trying to, have marital therapy as they were going in one of those classic Kihira moments. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it could have won. I didn't know how it was going to go. Again, some of the program lacks the nuance and sophistication that Sui and Han's free especially has, but they weren't really delivering at maximum capacity, that sophistication. So I really could have seen an argument for either way.
Yeah. Sui does not look like she is at 100% fitness level. Doesn't look completely fit yet. Look, she is starting so much later in the season than KMT, who's really peaking at the right time.
That's it. You're against everyone else's finest moment right now.
They often have gotten better throughout the season and had a slower start. So it's interesting. I think that they're going to be about 5th or 6th at Worlds and be in a nice position there should they perform comparable to this. And I think it'll be a satisfying finish to the season for them. So they're delivering. They are delivering. I think they'll be in there for the World Championships. But what about the other pairs? Let's talk about the American pairs first.
Okay.
Tara and Danny.
That was tough. That was tough. I didn't know how this was going to go for them, given what happened, especially with the lift, and this time, I'm cluing in now. Unfortunately, I'm looking at every lift to see if she's assisting or not. She isn't, and then there's also this element, as they do these interesting dismounts, the way they come out of it.
Which Jim created, yeah,
but I literally see her just fall into his arms, and then he falls into the next position, and there's only so many ways you can make that elegant when you're just sort of dead dropping your weight,
she has that kind of quality to her skating. When like that wonky technique that she's using on the Salchow and the throws are quite small.
Which Jenny was pointing out, right? Like she was like, there's an incessant looking to the left or something. I thought
Jenny can't make sense of that Salchow technique. It's so wrong, and
that is also mirrored on the throw.
Yeah,
and then the throw became, a liability as well.
I just thought the Delilah post was all about all the progress we made this season, and I have to say,
it seemed like a big regression.
I don't know if big regression is the word. I don't think it's like that. No. I think that they've been working harder and they looked more confident at nationals, but I have to say in terms of specifics, the twist doesn't look that much better to me. And I'm not saying
scarier in a way.
I'm not saying that they would look better with Jim. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I just don't see this team moving forward. I don't see the improvements. It's the same program as last year with the same content performed less well. And I don't think
I don't think
it has anything to do with who's at the boards with them. I just think it looks like they peaked at their 2016 Nationals moment and we haven't seen them really get better. I think Shaylin gave them better programs, but not...
Yes.
Yeah.
But, again, broken record, I prefer the original short. But the Swan Lake is a sophisticated program. But when they're having problems, like with the lifts, I may not care for Delilah's aesthetic or certain things about her coaching, but she knows how to coach a pairs lift.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they're not improving, and she knows how to teach a twist, and the fact that the twist is still wonky just in a new way, I don't know. There must be a disconnect there somewhere.
Yeah, I don't see it. 3 more years with this, I don't see it happening. Yeah. Unless U.S. pairs continue to be in this state where 1 spot, 2 spots, 1 spot. I mean, it's just, it's a little rough. It's a little.
And they could have made a huge statement if they came out and just nailed to be like, whoops, sorry about nationals, that was a fluke. And unfortunately, this is one of those things that kind of solidified the wonkiness. And it
solidified Ashley and Tim. To all their credit.
It sure did.
Yeah.
I was nervous because I also thought, I hope the pressure isn't on to back it up and to prove themselves. But even if it was, what they did was do just that.
Yeah. They did give a bad quote about the concussion. I don't know if you saw that, because now hockey players are starting to... Some hockey account was really emphasizing that they talked about how the concussion, and she was still feeling effects at nationals from it. They probably just should have left that out. Not necessary to build up the story.
You have a new narrative now, and it's that you're the national champion. You don't have to go back to that other story.
You have to be like, it wasn't that bad. We never want to talk about it, because there's a lot with concussion in protocol and how long they should be off the ice for. You don't even, like Michaela Roney, that's questionable. When you think back to that in 2012, also Zagitova's interview was also where she talked about, again, certain things. Why share it?
Right.
Jonathan.
An overshare. Yeah.
If you're still with your current coach and you're making sure you're spitting out water so you're not swallowing it, why share that? Why is that helpful?
Well, it's just more alarming because it indicates that you don't know that's something you shouldn't share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
it's normalized, that behavior. Yeah.
Troubling.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, points to a really interesting thing about the documentary. That's just some old school scientific stuff about water, and the Carolis hated water too, by the way. They would have toxic. Yeah. Oh yeah. If you read some of the Amelia Eberle interview, she said that at the 78 or 79 Worlds, the girls they had Geza Posar sleep in the bathrooms so that the girls couldn't drink the toilet water. I mean, we have really been through it in these sports. It just seems like really outdated information. That is
nutty.
But anyway, Haven and Brandon really, they got some interesting protocols on some of their elements here, where the judges were all over the map and where elements...
Well, and I'll tell you, because... And oftentimes, and I noticed as I was talking to other fans, about 4 continents and things like that, skating is so not black and white, right? No. There's so much gray area. And this is the team that epitomizes that, because their lifts are beautiful.
Great, powerful.
Their pair, they had, one of the best American twists. You know, they had these incredible moments, and then it's so lopsided with certain other parts of the program. So it's really difficult, I would think, in PCS ways, in protocol ways, to just know how you want to. It's like Amber Corwin just throwing that dice and just seeing what happens. You know, like I don't know where you put that.
So the side-by-side double cell. 2,
right.
-2,
right.
-2, 1, 3, 2, -2, -2. I mean, that's a wide range of WTF when you're looking at these judges. Like, what is going on there?
Well, and then it's as if they don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Is it like, are we judging them on the quality of the double? Are you penalizing them because you know that it was supposed to be a triple, so now you inherently started a negative?
You don't get a +3 for it. I mean, that's...
Exactly, yeah.
It wasn't that good of a double.
Unless they think that +3 then is combated by the removal of the base value in general. But it does seem like if you're botching what was planned, how could it be that high? Yeah.
For Ashley and Tim, they did do a really good job in the long. They did get an under on the loop. You could see how outside that circle he was. And then she doubled the Salchow. But I think that they've got a good shot at getting... They're going to be right between 9 and 11 at Worlds. They're going to be right in the middle there. And it's...
I was trying to add in, you know, which Russian pairs, where the Italians will be. And I was trying to see. I mean, it'll be... But what I like to see, actually, is...
It's that 8 to 12, 9 to 11 range.
But they came here with confidence, and that made me feel like maybe they'll even have more going into Worlds.
I think they should. I mean, they'll have more training time and more positive results, and it's been a positive season for them overall. So they should feel confident going in.
Right. I think there's a cap to where the judges will go with it based on the quality of the just general material. For instance, like the short is, I understand the idea, but it's just sort of the poor man's version of Laurie Nichols' short for Peng and Jin. You know, then when you see that effect done at a higher level across the board, you kind of see where it falls short back to back.
And even some of their basic lifts look scary. Just overhead lift. You're like, whoa, on the basic position, as it always does. But overall...
But what has improved also, their speed is much better. But remember, we used to say they're trying to do these innovative moves, but it's almost impossible for them to get them in sync. But they're starting to do so much more in sync, truly, and especially in some of their more unique spin positions. It was interesting to see that really start to click.
Now, Peng and Jin, I have to say, so I tweeted about this. She is such a muscular girl. And, like, normally I would be like, oh, my God, the wedgie, can we fix it? But she...
Looks good.
looks so muscular. I'm always blown away every competition. I'm like, wow. Yeah. You are doing some squats. Like, that looks fantastic.
And I think one of their short programs, it's cutesy, but it is the right kind of cutesy that is whimsical and charming instead of cringy and cheesy. Yeah. And I just think Laurie hit it on the head. And it draws out an effervescent quality in their skating. And, you know, I know they had the error on the throw loop in the short, but it just... The whole effect was a great one. They seemed so well matched. I know that the expectations for them were kind of the least, you know, when they made that swap. But I think they're really rising to the challenge this season, and it was nice to see them do so well. I was sorry for the errors in the free, but the material, especially in the short, is really good.
And you know that pair girls like Megan and Deanna are not going to get like what is just. They just have that magical quality. The skating skills, the overall extension, the overall things. Even when they do double cells, they're typically... I think they went for the triple here, but they're typically just nice. Like, everything they do, the throw is nice. It has that extra GOE to it. The music is nice. She's a great performer. Their lines match. It's just those old school pair things that add up over time with them, even though they don't have the maximum potential. But I root for them. They're...
Yeah.
You see it and you just want them to do well.
They're a welcome addition to the top groups. You know what I mean? Like they're a team I really do look forward to seeing because just their inherent stroking together as you see them on the ice in the warm up, it has a beautiful line to it.
It's everything that's gotten lost in pair skating since the IJS has come in. It's just remember when the Zhang skated together and she would hit some of the ugliest lift positions you've seen? Like this girl can perform. She's got extension. She looks great. And they're matched well together. I'm into it.
And the lifts are very committed also. Great.
Whereas when you watch the father skate, he needs those Benoit angles like Bradie does to kind of detract from a lack of grace and fluidity.
Yeah. Well, what they're going to bring in like kind of brute strength and stuff like that is a totally different quality than this refreshing kind of effervescent thing that Peng and Jin are doing.
So my boyfriend Drew, and Camille Ruiz, didn't you just find them like the nicest Canadian couple to look at? They're just so pretty, and at the same time, again, need to be so much bitchier when they skate. They just...
Same thing, talking about casual in that Mariah Bell way. There's something very carefree about it, and it almost fails to engage in an intensity level that seems to be needed maybe for them to execute certain elements.
And I mean, their free skate was entirely ripped off by Kane and O'Shea. Like, they did it
of course.
Yes.
But unfortunately,
they did it better.
They did it shorter. I mean, it's a long...
No. Camille and Drew do it as the free, and then Kane and O'Shea do it as the short, and it's not as good.
Oh, see, yes, I agree that the program in general isn't as good, but to sustain that concept for an entire free program, it does become a bit of a long period of time for anyone to sustain the monochromatic mood. Yeah, I think it's a big ask of anyone. And that was one, unfortunately, where a couple of times I ended up glancing up to see what minute we were at in the program, just because of the sameness.
Mm-hmm. Now, how was it seeing Danny in person again? We know you love to watch Danny O'Shea. How was it?
He's a beautiful skater, but it was a very, again, in a different way than U.S. Nationals, but in kind of the same way. It was a nervy pairs event. Mm-hmm. A lot of these lifts, them included, I couldn't always ease into the event and just enjoy it. Mm-hmm. There was something, I felt like I was aging a lot. Watching these.
Walsh and Showed looked like they would have fit in really well at U.S. Nationals with the lift that came down and just the overall program, the Romeo and Juliet. I mean, they would have been so
at home
at U.S. Nationals.
Yeah, exactly. It was, but I think you made that observation when we did the Canadian Nationals that Camille and Drew really have some fine qualities, but when they're not delivering, they allow Trent and what's her first name?
Evelyn.
Yeah. They allow them to go forward, and they did a clean short, but even still, it's like it somehow it doesn't have the same impact.
Two N's. Does that bother you?
Yeah, I don't know. Like Trent. Yeah.
Trent. We should call him Trent.
Yeah. That's nice. Nice final T there, Dave. That's excellent.
Yes, I don't.
Mr. Osmond, you mean? Yeah, because he's with Caitlin, right? Yeah, okay.
Oh, yes! And right. Jonathan, we are going to do a Thank You Canada as soon as it's uploaded, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday this week.
I'm thrilled.
Listen, Canada needs to have their moment, and then we're going to put Thank You Canada to bed. I feel like they were so extra about Thank You Canada and so enthused, and we did a lot of thanking of Canada.
But I'll tell you what it did. It helped Weaver and Poje be a factor.
It did. But again, the delay in in whatever happened with the broadcast, it's just kept it around longer. And I want to have my Thank You Canada moment. And then I want to put it in its place in a nice Marie Kondo box where we put sentimental items on the shelf, right? Like that's where it needs to go. It needs to be
And for me, that's the kind of box I'm like, donate. Goodwill.
I think it may bring me sentimental joy, but it needs to be kept away. Marie doesn't seem to like sentimentality. Do you notice?
Well, in its own way. I am Marie Kondo, like for my family. Like, do you know what I mean? Every time I go visit my sister and my nieces and stuff, like I'm like, hey, should we play a game where we reorganize and clean the playroom?
She said the reason we need to declutter is because we have clutter in our hearts. And skating fans have so much clutter in our hearts that we need to...
Tis true.
So I think, Thank You Canada, we need to it needs to be in the show. It needs to be nice, right? Like, but I'm ready to watch the broadcast, experience it. Ron Black is narrating it with Tracy Wilson, who you love.
I do love Tracy.
Of course Rod should be hosting it. Come on.
Yikes. Okay.
And we'll talk about the Bavarian Open.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I feel like you need to come back to reality. We will talk about these things. I like bonding with you during the week now. We're going to do more of it. I've decided.
Okay, I love it. Just connect.
Don't go away, because I'm going to put in a little bit. She's been requested before, but I did film Jonathan meeting my mother earlier, and
that's right.
I felt
we have played word games together, but now this is our first.
She says that you were really intense with Words with Friends, and that you have a million games going at the same time.
I go in spurts. Like, actually, as of the new year, I kind of cut it out. It was no longer sparking joy, but sparking a lot of pressure and stress. And I was like, that seems like a weird thing you don't have to be stressed about, Jonathan. Maybe don't play 800 intense games of Words with Friends.
So Words with Friends became really popular back when I was in school. I think getting my teaching certification or what. But my mom kept playing. I played Words with Friends and would play 12 or 14 games at the same time, and then it no longer sparked joy, and I moved on to other things. My mom just kept playing for 8 years, and she would be like, Pete, you have to move in the game. And he'd be sitting on the other couch next to her. I take after my parents, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
It was just really entertaining, and it was, you finally got to meet her. She likes to talk about you. She thinks you're very good looking. She talks about
she has great taste, then.
Yes.
I think she's even better than I do before.
So what was your moment of four continents?
Gosh, there were a lot. First of all, this was, it was so nice to be at an international event, because this crowd, even though few, was a very enthusiastic, different kind of approach than just kind of a lowbrow nationals crowd. It was a very sophisticated, knowledgeable, interesting energy in the crowd, and it was neat to meet a lot of the people here. In the skating itself, I have to say Evan and Madison, again, seeing them improve so much. Oh, no, lies. Piper and Paul's free dance was definitely my moment of that. Seeing Shoma do so well and be so centered in that program was very exciting for me. And seeing Rika's triple axel, which really was beautiful, given the circumstances, was also a very nice moment.
I think I'm going to go with Chock and Bates in the rhythm dance. I just loved it. The overall performance. Jason's triple flip sparked great joy.
Yes.
And
and the opening of Sui and Han's Paris party.
Oh, yes.
Totally cool.
Rika's triple axel. The Kirsten and Michael kiss and cry, where he swore and she tried to rein him in. That also.
But it was real, and I didn't find it over the top. There was something still.
Now, the Tracy Wilson kiss and cry fashion game has really been improving throughout the season. She seems to be channeling Marie Franz. And the I thought that was worth at least a 9.25 to 9.5.
Was that the white coat?
I believe, or was it a pinkish? I forget.
It could be. I saw from afar, but yeah,
I was very taken, and it was okay. It was a moment with Tracy. You know how we love our Tracy. So,
we do.
And she's just leading Jason on this plan. So, yeah.
I know. I like it. I liked it.
I liked this event. It sparked great joy.
It did.
Hold an edge and look sexy. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
It's Date Lisa's mom. Wow. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm just lovely. Did you watch The Four Continents?
No.
She cooked dinner.
Cooked dinner.
Oh my gosh! Some kind of mom that is just making everybody dinner instead of watching skating.
Hey, I have to celebrate my son-in-law's birthday. It's the birthday month. Then it's Dave's. Then it's Pete's. It's non-stop birthdays this month.
He looks very tan, right?
Yeah, I know. Where were you eating today with all your admirers sitting around that big table?
That was yesterday.
Oh, I know. I thought it was going to light on fire. It was kind of nice, actually, because it was much too cold to be eating outside.
Oh, where was that?
It was J.T. Schmidt's, a nice chain restaurant just across from the Honda Center in LA.
It looks fancy.
LA. It's cold out there?
Yeah, surprisingly, I want a refund. It was 50 degrees, and then we had to sit outside. Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
So hard to eat. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
I'm going to watch the Grammys.
I said, Mom, do you want to say hi to Jonathan? She's like, I know who he is. He has all the ornaments.
That's the Christmas tree ornament guy.
Guy. One and the same.
But you don't have my ornaments. I have the vintage Dave.
I have no vintage Dave ornaments, so you still win. Okay.
You could have one for a price. I could make you one.
Oh, the plot thickens. I look forward to it. It's
I can photocopy it. We can make another one.
That'd be great.
All right. Nice seeing you.
Nice to see you too.